My name is Ed Nardi, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I'm calling this public meeting to order at 7 p.m. Tonight's NRC meeting will be a hybrid in-person and Zoom meeting. We have a microphone set up on the commission table, and plans will be provided through the TV monitor. If you are presenting via Zoom, please turn on your audio and microphone when it is time for you to speak. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9 and use *6 to unmute. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of the commissioners, Delia, and the current petitioner. Once the commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. This meeting is being recorded. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will be automatically continued to the June 7th NRC meeting. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. Bill?
Bill Cremeza.
Gary?
Gary Kleiman.
Zach Grumwood.
Nick?
Nick Pappas.
All right, thank you, guys. All right, so we'll move to the first agenda item. Any commissioner comments this evening?
No.
All right, seeing none. Delia, director's update, please.
Many of you will know that Marcia Rasmussen, the Director of Planning and Land Management, is retiring after 36 years of service to the town. Her retirement party is scheduled for next Thursday afternoon from 3 to 5. Be here, so feel free to come. I think there will be a good showing of people. Since our last meeting, we had town meeting, and town meeting approved additional CPA funding for the Warner's Pond project, and we will be holding the Warner's Pond Second Community Forum on May 23rd, which is next Tuesday at 7 p.m. It will be in person at Harvey Wheeler and as well via Zoom. Town meeting also approved, and these are both CPC or CPA funded projects. Town meeting also approved consultant funding for the open space and recreation plan update, which we hope to begin to undertake this fall. I'm sorry, I jumped a little bit with the Warner's Ponds information. That the alternatives analysis report has been published. That's on our website. I think you're all aware of that.
Yeah.
It's a good document. And for the funding that we received from town meeting, what we're planning to do is further analyze the preferred alternative that has been identified in the alternatives analysis, which is the dam removal alternative. We'll continue with community engagement. We'll be doing some hydrologic and hydraulic modeling, sediment transport modeling, preliminary designs, updated cost estimates, and as well start doing some agency consultation. And this is really just to sort of get a better sense of the pros and cons of the dam removal alternative, so that that can be brought forward to an annual town meeting in 2024. We had a successful invasives removal poll at the Assabet River Bluff. Our esteemed chair was there assisting with also with 20 volunteers. So it's a really good effort, and there's, I think, some noticeable improvements to that. And then Bert is working on the design charrette for the trails, including the All Persons Trail and other amenities that we are planning to hold on June 14th in the evening, probably at Harvey Wheeler, but we're waiting for confirmation on that. And just the last thing is that a ranger from last year, Deanna Collins, returned, and she started last week. And our conservation crew, we do have a returning crew member, Shelby Guinard, who was tremendous. Both she and Dee were really good. We're very happy to have them back. And Shelby will start hopefully on Monday, and the second crew having a little bit of deja vu from last year and having a little challenge getting staffing for the second crew person. But we're getting close.
Commissioner, question?
Yeah.
On the open space plan, those resources, is the plan to get a consultant to help with that?
Yeah. Yes.
As you did last time.
Correct. Yes.
With the
So
25
Peter Alden, just identify yourself, sorry, for the record.
Peter Alden, 11 Riverside Ave in Concord West. which is what we'll call it once we get a Starbucks. When do we do the rest of the Aspect River Bluff? Is there another date? Because the volunteers did a great job, but there's still a lot more to do.
Awesome
there.
job. Peter was also present at that poll. Thank you, Peter. We are we will have another poll there. We have, our big effort this year is going to be at Punkatassett. That's been sort of programmed to be this summer's sort of effort, but we will have additional efforts at Aspet River Bluff because I do recognize that there's a lot of interest and enthusiasm to get additional invasives work there. And we did have such a good group. So hopefully we will have at least one more poll there towards the later part of the summer.
Okay. Thank you, Delia. All right, so we'll move on to our first new application of the evening. That is Town of Concord, 27B Park Lane, RDA file 23-7. And who do we have this evening to discuss the application?
Hello, members of the commission. My name is Giovanni Caceres. I'm a public works engineer for the Town of Concord Water and Sewer Division. Thank you for having me tonight. This generator that we are proposing to install will be serving a lift station that we currently have at the Park Lane. I'm sorry. We are putting a standby generator because through the years we have experiencing loss of power, and our guys have to go out there in the middle of a storm when there is lightnings and all kinds of electricity, and do this manually. Obviously, it's very dangerous for them. So we are installing a standby generator that will be powered by natural gas. Thank you, Delia. That red dot shows the location of the proposed standby generator. Right next to the red dot that we have there is the electrical panel for the lift station, which sits above ground, of course. We're proposing to install it right next to it, being that it's a turnkey installation. The contractor that is doing it, their name is New England Generator. They're very experienced. This is my first year with the town, but I come from the Department of Correction for 11 years, and I used them throughout the 11 years. They're very experienced and very good electricians. So I'm very comfortable that everything will turn out to be the way we expect it.
Thank you, Giovanni. Just a question, do you have that picture that it was in the thumbnails with the generator on it?
Give me a second and I
Yeah,
can.
my only question is, so is this, I think we have a picture of the location where the generator is going to go. And is this a backup generator to the existing generator out there? Or is that a generator, the blue housing? Just out
We
of
don't-
curiosity.
Yeah, we don't have a generator on site. What you
Oh.
see, the box that is there, it's a box that contains electrical panels for the function of the lift station that is underground.
Oh, I see. So, okay, gotcha.
So if in the event that we lose power, our guys have to bring in
Oh, yeah.
a manual generator and do the cables and all that. Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Jilly.
Perfect.
That box that is existing is it houses the electrical panels for the lift station, which is on the other side of this picture. So we're proposing to install the standby generator right next to it. So our installation is fairly simple and fast.
Is it on
So
that
the
pad right there?
left-hand pad or the
Well,
white?
You're gonna create a new concrete pad, right?
Yes, the generator comes with a prefab pad. We are proposing to just remove maybe some of the dirt because the pad should sit on gravel. That's what is practiced.
Yeah.
And the pad itself is roughly about 4 to 5 inches. So I was telling Delia that my goal is to sit it just a little higher than the pad for the big panel that you see there. That will give us clearance because that elevation, it's about 122 feet, and the wetlands that is sitting behind us, as this picture is showing, it's 121.9 if I'm correct. So that should give us clearance enough in the event of anything. any
Gotcha.
heavy storm.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And of course, it's just some minor ancillary trenching for the gas and electric hookups.
Correct. There is natural gas in the street. And so it will be minor trenching for the gas. The actual electrical connection, we feel like it should be cables above ground, so it should be, and we'll hide it, we also have plan of putting some trees or some bushes around it, so we keep it away from high vision from the residents. Of course, we don't want to disturb anything.
Okay,
Okay, so I had a question about the trees that are going to be removed. Are they in this photo?
So it's these ones here. This picture will show it better. 1 second.
yeah, they're sprayed or something like
Yeah.
that. So there you go.
No, I see.
I see. So that's just 2 of them, or is that counted as 3 trees?
There's,
I think we said
Yes,
3
yeah.
trees.
Correct. Yeah, those and the ones next to the,
Maybe one
Yeah,
Less than 6 inches.
yeah, maybe.
yeah, the
Okay.
ones next to the box are the ones that are fairly small in diameter. The one in front is the only one that it was a little substantial. I love trees myself. I'm a green person. So we're for removing what we can, but if that one for any chance needs to stay,
Mhm.
we're willing to maybe work it out.
But you said you're adding some extra shrubs, but they're not planned or do we?
we don't
It's
have
not
uh,
those here.
mitigation, right?
Yeah, so it's not mitigation. Well, I guess I have a question about that because the next application we're going to discuss also has some trees to be removed, and we're requesting mitigation. And I know the comment was that this was a very wooded area, and I just wanted to check we're being consistent across applications.
That's a good question. So, Giovanni, are you willing to do replacements for these trees that are being cut?
We have started conversations. I took our ground and Aaron from our grounds, and he said these trees, the one he marked, could be replaced with something that we could bring new trees. We're certainly willing to do anything that the commission
I would,
would like
so
us to do.
that could just be included as a condition that
Okay.
one-to-one replacement for the trees removed
Right.
with a native replacement. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, That's good.
Or don't remove the trees.
right.
Right. 'Cause I mean, there's a lot of room around that too.
Mhm,
Yeah, just
Yes,
depends
there is.
what they have to dig and get
Yeah.
access to it and
mhm.
whatever logistics they need. Okay, thank you, Giovanni. Any other questions from the commission?
Mhm.
Okay. Any public comment regarding this application? Delia, anything on?
Sorry,
Oh, no problem. No,
I do not see any questions.
right.
Any hands.
nor do I. So with that, I believe we have a recommendation. Bill, you want to take that?
Sure. Let's see. For the project,
And will you add that condition of the free replacement 1-to-1, depending on how many trees they remove?
yes,
Well, it's still 1-to-1.
That's true.
right.
That is true.
So let's see, for the project, for the Concord Water and Sewer Division for the location at 27B Park Lane. We recommend that you issue a negative determination number 2 and 3 with the following conditions. 1, a pre-construction conference will be held with the DNR staff prior to the commencement of work. And 2, after the project has been completed, the applicant shall submit a letter to the NRC stating that all work has been conducted in accordance with the conditions of this determination of applicability. And 3, that any trees that are removed should be replaced with appropriate native plants or plantings. Any change from the from the RDA shall be described.
Second,
Thank you, Sarah. We'll take the vote. Bill?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
aye.
Nick?
Aye.
I am an I as well. Thank you, Giovanni.
Thank you.
Good luck with the project.
Thank you so much.
All right, our next application is notice of intent for 53A Nurse Mac Hill Road, DEP file 137-0 1633. All right, and that is, Aiden, are you,
No, it's Dominic.
oh,
Yes,
Dominic.
Aiden?
Aiden, are you speaking to this?
yes, I'm going to be speaking for this on behalf of
Okay.
Summons.
All right.
I can share my screen. If you'd like.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead one.
What's that?
I skipped ahead.
Oh, that's a,
Sorry.
that's nice.
This is 1024 Main Street.
This is
This is
53A at Nurse
Very
Neck.
interesting.
Nurse Neck Road.
Oh, okay, good, thank you.
That one's later. I'm doing both.
Okay, good.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, you can see it well.
Got it.
Okay, so this project is for the construction of these one-to-one riprap slopes here. The client here wants to build a house, and he's trying to do his best to stay completely out of the buffer zone, but the house does require minor grading. And we try to tighten up that grading as much as possible in order to meet the existing grade and really not have too much effect on the wetland as possible. So you can see that this slope here, this dotted line here is the 100-foot buffer zone. It just barely, portions of it are within the buffer zone here, as well as a portion of the grading for the sewage disposal system. But the sewage disposal system is entirely outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. And it also includes a breakout barrier along the edge to make sure that there's absolutely no interference with the buffer zone or the wetlands. This project will require the removal of 3 trees located at the bottom of your plan here. And in order to mitigate these, we are proposing 14 plantings, 2 of which are trees. The exact location of these plantings is not set in stone, just because the backyard here is a wooded area. So we want to place these plantings basically where they have room to grow, while not interfering with any existing greeneries that are out there. As you can see, that this site is rather steep. I don't know if you guys were able to go out, but really just getting down to where the wetlands are, it's a rather big hill. So we proposed a Presby system here, which allows for a smaller footprint, which allows for less grading to go around it to really stay far away as possible. The existing trees were located for this plan, and any tree within 25 feet of the limit of work has been supposed to be protected. And you can see that this is marked with these circles here. And that really is kind of the extent of the project. We're just requesting that we're able to construct these slopes here to make room for everything here.
Okay, thank you, Aiden.
Yeah.
And just a question on the tree protection detail. Again, it just seems like it's, I think, a little inconsistent with our typical detail. It shows, I think it's tree armoring it shows, and
Right.
that certainly wouldn't be necessary if you have the, the stake and the metal fencing around the tree crown, if you will, of the 10 feet diameter. So you may just want to get in sync with, the typical detail, if you will, that we have, Aiden.
Sure.
Looks like it'll be, oh,
So we don't have a detail yet. We will work with Public Works
Okay.
to develop that detail.
but maybe suggest
So
they don't
where-
need tree armoring.
No, they
though.
don't.
Is
Where
that
does,
just-
where does your detail come from? Even just out of curiosity.
Exactly where I'm not entirely sure. I think we use kind of a standard. Basically, we've just found a company that does it, and they kind of outlined how they do it in the first place. So I think that's what we use for the tree protection detail.
So we'll include in the special condition what specifically we want, and it's slightly different, as you know, I think, Aiden, we've talked about this, that the armoring is not necessary because the fencing is being constructed 10 feet, around the, the canopy of the tree, and we have signage that is a requirement that will go in the special condition, but we'll work with Public Works and see when they have time if they can
Okay, yeah, just
create a
a,
detail
yeah,
that we
get
can
some
then
consistency.
provide. Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you. And that, again, just out of curiosity, the riprap, walls, what is their slope, Aiden? Is it a 2-to-1 or that they're set at?
So that's set at a 1-to-1.
A 1-to-1?
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, we try to reach grade, existing grade as quickly as possible.
okay. You're comfortable? Yeah, that's a fairly significant grade, so, okay. Get a good stone guy out there. All right, well, any of the commissioners have any further
No.
comments on it? Nick, any comment from you? I just can't see you.
No comment.
Okay,
Actually, I'm just wondering about the foundation drain. So is the foundation drain emptying out in the middle of the riprap? Is that?
It's like-
Yes. Yes, I think it empties right before,
At the 100, right?
yeah, right before the 100, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
all right.
Yeah, I'm
Is
not
there,
into the wetlands.
is there any public comment regarding this application? All right, not seeing any. I think, Aiden, I think with that limited, commentary from the commission and no public comment, we should have an order of conditions for you, for June 7th meeting. I don't think there's any need to attend.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, moving on. Notice of intent, 1024 Main Street, DEP file 137-1634. And we have someone from the Dartmouth group this evening.
Dominic Maringolo here from Solitude Lake Management, representing the Dartmouth Group.
Evening.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. So so the Dartmouth Group is proposing, we've presented this NOI to the commission to continue the aquatic management program at the Concord Green Condos Association ponds. So we're basically want to continue the same program with which involves monthly inspections of the ponds, twice annual water quality sampling of the ponds, as well as herbicide and algicide treatments as needed to control both non-native species, including curly leaf pondweed, as well as overabundant native species and filamentous algae. We're planning to use the same products in the past, plus the addition of a new product since the last NOI was filed. So we'll be using as needed diquat herbicide, flumioxazin herbicide, copper-based algicides. Basically what we're trying to do here, these are obviously man-made ponds. There's 3 ponds, upper, middle, and lower pond. They all flow together and eventually empty into the Assabet River. They're all very small, shallow. Total acreage of all 3 ponds is about 2 acres. Again, all man-made ponds. So they do suffer from elevated nutrients, a lot of nutrient-rich muck on the bottom of the pond. So they do suffer from an overabundance of plant and algae growth, which can obviously accelerate the eutrophication or filling into the pond, as well as adversely affect water quality. And there are some fish in the pond as well. But we're trying not to over manage the ponds. You know, we're certainly fine with 20 to 40% cover of native plants that are low in the water column and do not have an overabundance of growth. So we typically have to do 1 to 3 treatments over the course of each summer. And we're based on label restrictions, we can only treat up to half of the ponds at any one time. So we're trying to be kind of proactive. So we're out there once a month doing inspections, trying to stay ahead of any algae growth or nuisance weed growth as needed so that we can do a minimum amount of treatment. And yeah, it's essentially been, it's been a very successful program. You know, the water quality sampling we've done over the years has certainly shown that there's elevated nutrients in the water, both phosphorus and nitrogen. There's about a 90-acre or so watershed that includes the surrounding neighborhoods, as well as the MBTA property along the railroad tracks. Is really, you know, given that they're man-made ponds, there's, you know, there's not a lot of control over the watershed except for just on the property that the applicant has control of. So we're certainly trying to conduct this management responsibly. You know, without management, it's likely that the ponds would become 100% cover with weed and algae growth, which is, you know, detrimental to the pond ecology as well as the water quality. So we're trying to prevent those conditions from occurring by doing a prudent management program. Again, I know you folks probably know this. Each year, in addition to the commission's approval through the order of conditions, we obtain a permit from Mass DEP, Office of Watershed Management, on every year, listing the products and amounts that we're allowed to use. The staff from Solitude are all licensed by the Department of Agricultural Resources as applicators, licensed applicators for these products. And we obviously always follow the label. These products have all been approved by the EPA, issued a label by the EPA, been reviewed by DAR and DEP here in Massachusetts. We follow the guidance and the recommendations in the generic environmental impact report for lake and pond eutrophication and management. Yeah, that's pretty much a summary of the program. And if some of you commissioners have been around for a while, you've probably heard us present this project before. So we just, again, want to just continue the program. And we do an annual report for the client, which should be copied to the commission, providing the details on the dates of the visits, dates of the treatment, the water quality results, and so forth. So commission can kind of keep track on an annual basis what's been going on with the program. So happy to answer any questions, or if you want some more detail on any part of the program, be happy to address that as well.
Thank you. So just a little housekeeping at the front end. As you know, the reformer order expired in January of 2023.
Yes.
So if you could file, you should submit a request for a certificate of compliance just to close out that
Absolutely.
order.
Yeah, I'll have our office take care of that this week.
Great, thank you. And I think the next question really is just that there's a new herbicide proposed with Flumagard, and just
Flumagard, yep.
Yeah, just wanted to understand why that's being added to the mix, if you will.
So Flumagard is a flumioxazin-based herbicide. It was approved for use in Massachusetts. This is going back a little ways now, but I believe it was around 2012 or 13 that it was approved. It's more effective on some of the plants, particularly duckweed and even the curlyleaf pondweed. So it provides better control than the diquat herbicide. So I think it's a better fit for the program. It was not included in the previous NOI, probably because it was relatively new at that time. But we've had plenty of experience now with using that product and feel like it would be a good addition to the toolbox here for the Concord Green Ponds.
Okay. And I guess the one thing that I think from previous efforts, I think in previous order of conditions, what was required was kind of monitoring of the stormwater and to determine if that is a source of
Yes.
any of the nutrient loading to the pond systems, and apparently that wasn't done. So if we could ask if that was done and we just didn't get a copy of it, or
So it
Yes, yeah.
it was done. I can re-forward some of these reports to the commission, but I believe. So I went up and pulled up our reports back to 2019. So in 2019, there was a stormwater sample run in October of that year. So I will forward a copy of that to the commission. I mean, certainly, we did see. I mean, the ponds themselves are high in nutrients, probably as a result of the stormwater, but also as a result of some of the nutrients dissolving from the muck on the bottom of the pond as well, especially during the summer when temperatures are high and the ponds get stagnant. So I think we have kind of two factors here: the stormwater and the muck on the bottom of the ponds. But I mean, clearly. So just looking at the 2019 results I have in front of me, I mean, one of the stormwater drains had a dissolved phosphorus level of 239 parts per billion, which is pretty high. That's 0.23 milligrams per liter, which is almost 10 times more than we would like to see in the pond. And we actually had even higher ones too. Now that I'm looking further to the right, we had 341 parts per billion, 976 parts per billion. So I think it's clear that we are, I mean, stormwater always is higher in nutrient levels than the ponds would be. That's just the nature of stormwater. I don't have much of we don't do a lot of stormwater work at Solitude, so I don't have a really good feel for how this compares to like your average stormwater outfall. So maybe we could do a little more investigating into that. But you know, most of the drains that go into the ponds are just from well, there's the parking lots, obviously,
Yes.
from the condominiums, but there's also a drainage swale that comes in at the top end of the north pond that drains that part of the watershed as well. So I think it's pretty clear we are definitely seeing some stormwater effects, and I believe there was other. So if I look back like to the 2000.
Well, that's, you know, you don't have to look too far back, but I think one, it'd be good to get those reports to the staff.
Sure.
And then in your current application, does it include stormwater monitoring as well?
Where if the commission would like to continue that, we certainly are willing, if you wanted to put that in as a condition again.
I think we'd like to actually see it as a monitoring protocol for that to be provided, rather than try to condition it. So if you can just prepare something that
Okay.
comes in as part of the filing, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think it's probably important to really understand if that is perhaps a primary contributor to the loading, because if that is, it would be great to understand that and perhaps in the future deal with
Right.
upgrading some of that stormwater catchment and treatment, so that maybe you can start to ideally ease off on the problem,
Yes.
the treatment of the chemicals, right? So, but we don't know without the data.
Right. I think I'm looking, I could probably resend this to staff as well. We had done a watershed map, and this is just based off of like stream stats. So it may not be 100% accurate. We would probably have to kind of correlate that with probably go to the DPW or try to get some drainage maps of the streets to see where things actually go. But you know, the property itself is only about, you know, probably a third or so of the watershed. So there could be some, you know, other factors as well that are outside of the control of the applicant. But you know, I think I can include some of those, some of the things I just mentioned in the stormwater.
Sure, why don't you make that proposal and your protocol, and then
Okay.
staff can review that.
Ed, can I ask a question, Matt, since it's sort of related to testing? It's not testing of the inputs, though. I have a question, whether you're, as part of your testing protocol, are you testing downstream? I'm interested in impacts on the Assabet. So, the outflow of these ponds or something like that. Do you do some testing?
Well, we do testing twice a year, early and late season at the center of each pond. So I think in terms of the outflow to the Assabet, I think the sample taken from the center of the lower pond would be representative of what's leaving the system and heading down to the Assabet.
And Gary, is that your question?
Well-
Regarding the half-life of the chemicals and what's,
It's really getting
Oh,
to, what are the impacts on the Assabet?
right, what's staying in the
so-
pond and what's flowing to the Assabet?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Are you referring to the products that we're using or for the water
Yeah.
quality?
how much of those products are winding up in the Assabet? And I'm not sure what we can do about it, but I just would like to know what the contribution is to water quality in the Assabet.
We can add, we can do a sample at like 48 hours after treatment or something like that. And most of the products break down pretty quickly, and we also keep a buffer from the outlet of the system. We don't treat that pond or all the way down right to the outlet too. So we keep a buffer distance just to prevent a direct outflow of the herbicides.
Aren't there flashboards at those ponds, at the lower pond?
Yes.
So is that
basically-
containing you're not treating when there's overflow over the flashboards?
Right, and we wouldn't treat before, right after a heavy rain event, or if there's one forecasted either for the next, 2 to 3
So
days.
there's no flow to the Assabet during treatment? Is that what you're saying?
Ideally.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
That was my understanding.
Is that true, Dominic?
Well, I haven't, back when we first started the program, I know the practice was for them to lower the ponds a little bit, just very slightly, to stop the flow from stop the flow in between the two ponds for a short amount of time. So that is still the practice, yes.
And will that be in your application or protocol as well, Dominic?
I can flesh that out, so it's all
It would-
in
that would
writing,
be good.
I
absolutely.
think it'd be helpful so that everybody that's working there understands what the approach and protocol is.
And I think it's to clarify that there will not be impacts downstream
Right.
of the area of treatment. So I think if you can just provide something that captures, in order to avoid downstream impacts, this is how we will approach that. I think that might be helpful.
Yeah, and maybe as part of that, you can just give us a little bit more simple science between the half-life. When you say they break down quickly, is that 48 hours or 96 hours or something like that?
I can provide some more detailed information on that. I believe they're all, I think they're all half-lives are certainly less than 48 hours. For us, some of them are even less than 24 hours, but I can provide the actual information for that.
And we mentioned at the beginning that we needed to submit a request for the certificate of compliance, but I'd like to suggest that we receive the reports related to the previous work before that comes in.
Sure.
Thanks.
I believe they were sent, but it may not have been. So I will send all the reports that we have
Great.
into the staffs for you.
Okay. And I think there's a notation here as well, Delia, from you in terms of the kind of the vegetative management around the pond and the foliar
yeah.
spray being a
Right.
concern, right, in regard to
Yes.
other species.
Right, so it sounds like loose strife is intended to be sprayed. Is that, am I?
That's how we've been doing it. But to be honest with you, we've been doing this for so long. There really isn't a lot. There really hardly is any purple loose strife around the ponds
Right.
anymore.
So, yeah.
So we're not doing that's not a regular practice.
Foliar spray would never have been approved, so that was shouldn't be occurring. And there have been a number of beetle releases that do control the loose strife,
Mhm.
so that's not, to us, loose strife is not a major concern from an invasive standpoint.
Okay.
But if there are other invasives that are within the 25-foot no disturb zone, and it would be good to have a plan that addresses the removal of those with the goal of, I don't think this is feasible in, many areas around the ponds, but as much as possible to provide a 25-foot, no undisturbed, no disturb zone. So, remove the invasives, do some replanting with natives so that you are again, making efforts to reduce the nutrient and sediment loading into the ponds that may, in future mean that there's a reduction in the chemical treatment that is necessary.
Sure.
So if
What-
you could
what-
provide a plan that addresses that, so what invasives you have out there, how are they going to be treated? And cut and dab is acceptable, but foliar spray is not.
I was gonna ask what are acceptable methods of chemical treatment, cut and dab or
Cut and
hand,
dab is
hand,
acceptable.
hand
Hand
licking?
removal is great.
Okay.
Mowing is not an acceptable strategy.
Okay.
So it's really either hand removal or cut and dab.
Okay.
And then where you can get more areas of sort of having a more robust vegetated 25-foot no disturb zone. I think that's in everybody's benefit. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I know the upper pond, some parts of the pond are either right against the buildings or have a
Have
rock
riprap or-
riprap shoreline. So, but yeah, I think
Right.
there's certainly
opportunities.
there's some opportunities. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
plenty of areas that would be able to do something like that.
Great,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Any other comments from the commission?
No.
All right.
This is-
Yeah, any comments from the public? Yes, please.
Janet Rothrock, 618 Merzak Hill Road. I'm wondering if stormwater is found to be a contributing factor, might they look into their landscaping practices? Maybe they're putting too much fertilizer on.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
could very well be. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Let's see,
Alyssa
Pam-
had- Alyssa
oh,
had her hand
Alyssa?
first.
Hi, yeah, so I noticed in the order of conditions from 2013, yeah, the stop flash logs, washboards were supposed to be installed, prior to treatment. So that seems like a good practice. And then I know the stormwater quality samples were taken, but I don't know where. And I was wondering if you could provide a figure showing
Yeah.
where those different points are.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would make sense. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And then actually I had a question about the water quality data because actually I've seen the reports from 2016 through 2021, which are all in the file at the NRC. And there doesn't seem to be any, or I couldn't see any consistency among the data. I'm not sure what it's telling us, and I'm not sure who else is looking at this and if it is being used to make any determinations in the future. That was sort of a question of, we were collecting all this data, but is anybody looking at it to see, other than the fact that, yes, the stormwater is worse than the middle of the ponds?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that we unfortunately probably have limited options on what we can do, but something I would have to discuss further with the applicant on, because, I think too, as I said, I think the ponds themselves can be sources of nutrients during the drier periods of the summer when there's not a lot of flow. I think some of the nutrients can definitely kind of get dissolved or kind of leached from the sediment in the ponds as well. So without some type of a dredging project, there's really not a lot of alternatives there. But certainly the stormwater data definitely seems to indicate that there's phosphorus and nitrogen sources as well in the stormwater. So that's something that obviously would have more options to be able to do something about.
Yeah, I was wondering, have you ever done a sediment sample just to see how much of the phosphorus and nitrogen is in the sediment?
We have not, no. So
So-
we could. I could
Just, it's a
potentially
thought. Not-
thought, yeah.
Just if you're looking at trying to complete the picture of what's going on there, that might be helpful. And then with respect to the invasives around the pond, I mean, I know there's some overlap with the other order of conditions that exist. And I know like Connor pulls the loosestrife and buckthorn and does some cut and dab work. And that was included in the original order of conditions for Solitude. One thing that was missing there, that there is some Norway maple that's coming up, saplings, that wasn't included and probably should be included in the new order of conditions, in addition to the buckthorn and loosestrife and rose. And so I think, because sort of the question came up today, can we cut that? And if it was in the order of conditions, that would make things clearer.
Okay.
And then I had a question, it's sort of more general for the commission as a whole, which is, I think a good approach to find out what the impacts to the Assabet River are from this project. I was wondering what other chemical treatment programs are going on that are contributing to the receiving waters, either the Assabet or the Concord, and if you knew that. Anybody on the commission?
I don't think the commissioners would know that, certainly.
So right off the top of my head, I mean, Silver Hill has pond treatments, and that eventually discharges the Concord River. I mean, all of the ponds, well, yeah, I mean, all of the ponds are eventually going to discharge. I think with this one, it's so close to the Assabet, which
Right.
is part of the it's the immediacy. But no, I mean, Alyssa, I don't off the top of my head know that an
Yeah.
answer. I don't have an answer to that question.
All right. Well, no, I was just sort of curious as to the whole watershed, we have
Yeah.
all these NOIs for chemical treatment going on in different places. And to look at it holistically would be interesting. Although if the data you get in response to Gary's question is shows that it's not contributing, then it's kind of a moot question. So that was it.
Thank you, Alyssa. Pamela?
Hi, Pamela Dritt, 13 Concord Green. I was wondering if the things like the aeration from the fountains would help with this. Also, isn't most of the nutrients coming from the grounds maintenance of fertilizers and pesticides sloping down to the ponds? They're very heavy on that. Could we
Well,
not?
I will talk with the applicant more about that. I mean, there are laws in Massachusetts about using phosphorus fertilizers. So you're not allowed to use phosphorus containing fertilizers unless you can prove that the soils actually need phosphorus, which most don't. So
It's I live there. It's a regular style lawn maintenance, heavy on the inputs.
well, there are fertilizers without phosphorus, so they just have the potassium, and so it certainly they might be fertilizing, but they should be using fertilizers that don't have phosphorus in them, just other nutrients. So I will verify all this information. So I'm going to need to have a discussion with the management company about a number of different things that have come up tonight. So
I know they're doing an experimental demonstration project near the gardens of organic fertilizer.
okay.
What that means, I don't know, but
Okay,
I
I can-
think that you'd need a demonstration project for organic fertilizer. And a lot of the plantings and the planting design was from before we knew much about the importance of natives and so on. And I know there's a lot of flame bushes, for example, all over the property.
Okay.
And could there not be some plantings that would help the water, clean the water? And some more ecological system maintenance, such as maybe frogs or turtles or native fishes that would make even though it's a man-made pond, it's not, it's a redirection of a creek, isn't it?
I believe
So
so.
it
Yeah.
actually has a flow through. And I can't imagine that what we dump into it here in Concord Green doesn't flow pretty clearly into the Assabet.
Thank you, Pamela. Alyssa.
I was
see your
just
hand
going to say that the fertilizer they use is a no phosphorus fertilizer.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Dominic, it would be great if you just follow up in writing on that. Just, it would be helpful to have that as a baseline record in terms
Yes.
of what you put on their lawns. Thank you.
And the aeration, do you want to ask about the?
Oh, yeah, and Pamela, just bring up a question about aeration. Is
Yeah,
that, is there any benefit to that in these ponds?
I mean, there is, it, you know, it doesn't solve all the problems in and of itself, but it definitely can have some beneficial effects on the ponds, increasing the oxygenation, keeping the water moving. I believe I know they at least used to have a fountain in the the lower end of the upper ponds. And we have kind of proposed or recommended that they consider an aeration system, maybe not necessarily fountains, but, you know, a submersed type of aeration system at the other pond. So we can revisit something they hadn't gone for in the past, but we can certainly revisit that recommendation with them as well.
That would be great.
I think that would be good, because
Yeah.
if that's something that they're open to, you could roll that into this notice of intent.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Thank you.
I know there's been at least 3 fountains there. 2 in the big one, 1 in the smaller one.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Pamela. Let's see, I don't think we have any other public comment. So Dominic, are you good to continue this to the next meeting of June 7th?
Yes, absolutely. June
Okay.
7th. Thank you.
Revised materials in by next Friday. Noon on next Friday, please.
You good with that timing?
I believe so. You know, if for some reason it takes a little bit longer, I can contact staff and ask
Yeah.
for a continuance to the following meeting.
Yeah, you bet. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time as well.
All right, moving on to the next, let's see. It is 461 Old Bedford Road. It's an NOI file number 137-1636.
Hi,
Good evening, Nathaniel.
hello. My name is Nathaniel. I will be talking about the project at 461 Old Bedford Road. I don't know if anyone has it up, but I will share my screen. All right, so this is at 461 Old Bedford Road. So it's a single family house lot. Currently has a dwelling on it and a driveway. And there is an old septic system to the rear, and then beyond the rear property line is the bordering vegetated wetland, which projects 100-foot buffer zone onto the very rear of the property here, which is the dotted line. So it's only the 50 to 100-foot buffer that's actually on the site. So the property line is right here. So anything on the site is outside of the 50-foot no build and well outside the 25 no disturbs. It's only the outer 100-foot buffer. So because of that, the work proposed for the house, a lot of the work with the house, there's additions going in and whatnot, is fully outside the buffer zone. So really the work that's actually within the jurisdiction is pretty much limited to clearing out the invasives that are to the rear is really the bulk of the work. And the other thing that's within the buffer zone is they're taking out the old septic system because there's a sewer main available in the street. So they're going to connect to that instead. So they won't have the need for an on-site septic system anymore. So they're going to take that out, and part of it, according to the old plans, is within the buffer zone. So there'll need to be a little bit of excavation to take it out. And then after the invasives and everything are all cleared out, it's going to be loamed and seeded, and they're installing sprinkler heads, excuse me, kind of spaced out along within the buffer zone, just in the backyard. And other than that, it's noted that all the invasives should be removed by hand and fully removed from the site. There's a silt barrier along the back property line, an area for stockpiling outside the 100-foot. And it's noted that everything should be restored with loam and seed as we normally do. And Mark White had spoken to the applicant here, had spoken to Delia apparently earlier, and we added, so this is slightly different than the plan that's submitted. We added the tree protection and the detail to the plan as requested. That was the only change really. So that's pretty much it. I don't really have too much more else to say about it. It's pretty straightforward. So any questions or comments, I can take them.
Okay, thank you, Nathaniel. And I think in the write-up, it says that the 2 trees are protected currently, correct? That's already done.
Just with snow
Is that right?
fence. So just with snow fence,
Oh, just with
No,
snow
it's
fence?
wire.
just the wire, okay.
Wire,
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Again, looks like relatively straightforward. Any questions?
I just be clear for me, Nathaniel, between the 100-foot buffer zone, the 100 feet and the 50 feet, and with the part that's on their property, you're turning that all into lawn? Is that correct?
Yes, pretty much. Right now it's like a big mix. They're all listed on the notice of intent, but it's a big mess of like different types of invasives. So they're taking them out, and then once they're out, they're restoring it with loam and seed, aka lawn. Yeah.
So that line at the top of the plan is the 50.
Yeah, I see that
Yeah,
now,
so you're
yeah. So
60
not
to
much
100.
we can do.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Any comment from the public regarding this application?
See one, so one hand.
Yes, Pamela.
Has there been any encouragement or help for the homeowner to consider replacing it with something other than lawn? Like native vegetation that wouldn't need mowing and would help? I mean,
Any feedback on that, Nathaniel? You know?
Well, so as proposed, they're putting in sprinkler heads. The plan is to loam and seed it and convert it into a lawn. Given that the whole area back there is just a mess of invasives, it's actually quite an improvement from a conservation standpoint. And they're leaving the 2 trees that are back there. That's just what's proposed.
well, how about fruit trees?
Well, Pamela, we're not going to design the project, if you will.
Yeah.
Appreciate the comment, but it's what we're commenting on is what's before us. Thank you. So I know the notation here is we continue it to June 7th.
Yeah.
But
Did we mention that Mark is okay with that?
oh, is he? Fine.
All
Okay.
right.
That's all that matters.
Yep. So Nathaniel, we'll continue this to June 7th, Sarah?
Did you mention the tree protection deals need to be on the plans? I can't remember.
Yes.
Yes, I think they did add it.
Yeah. And so no need to attend, obviously, Nathaniel.
Okay.
Okay, I can send in the hard copies at some point next turn. We get to-
Perfect.
Yeah, everything will have to be in week from
next
Friday.
Friday.
Yeah,
Yep, just printing them off and we'll get them over. Sounds good.
Perfect.
sounds great. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, let's see, the next application is a area of delineation for 555 Hugh Cargill Road, DEP file 137-1638.
Like to join you?
Oh, yes.
Sure.
Sorry, to sneak up on you.
No, help yourself. Happy to have you.
So for the record, my name is Seth Donahoe. I'm with Dillis and Roy Civil Design Group, and we are here tonight on behalf of 555 Hugh Cargill Road LLC. They have requested that we submit an ANRAD application, and it's limited to 385 linear feet of BVW in the northeasterly corner of the property. And are you going to bring up the plan, Delia?
1 second.
Appreciate it kindly. So I will put the brakes on until that's before us so we can
You bet.
discuss what's there. All right, and so I have reduced size paper copies if any of the commission members would like to see it that way as well.
Thanks.
old-fashioned. So the, what you're looking at is the overview of the property, and bold outline there is a large barn building. And then there is a dash line that is the limits of the wetland resource area. It goes to a pond about 1,500 feet to the west of the property. And there's a blow up to the right of the plan. And that shows us just the northeast corner of the site. And so that is a detail of the area that's subject to the ANRAD request. So again, it's limited to 385 linear feet of wetland, flags A1 through A16. So this is an area just north of an existing barn. It is a wooded area, predominantly oaks and pines. There's a small rise between the, what I'd call two sections of the wetlands there. The existing barn is about 82 feet from the edge of the wetland. The barn itself is quite a bit of ways from its actual property line to the north there. The ANRAD application included a summary of vegetation observed as well as some soil observation plots that were done throughout the area. Those are denoted on the plan as well. So as it's limited to only the 16 flags, not the entire property, I'd be happy to address any questions that the commission may have regarding this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And this application is coming before us just to clarify what you have on site in terms of just your knowledge of that. For the ownership's
I
knowledge
think
of that
we
area.
were brought in late to the party.
Okay.
They had some plans on the property.
Ah.
And then it came apparent that they needed to have the
Understood.
ordinance solidified.
Okay, thank you.
And
So the work is not in this area then, okay.
No work is.
No work at all.
just
It's just-
requesting a delineation and,
Yeah.
and you've been out, you've verified
Yes,
flags.
yes, we have
and-
both been out and reviewed and confirmed, and the flags are all good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
so-
Anything else, Gary?
No, no.
Okay. Any public comment regarding this application? All right, seeing none, I think we do have a
Yeah.
order of
Then
resource delineation.
Move, we close and issue an order of resource delineation for 555 Hugh Cargill Road, DEP file 137-1638 with one finding.
Just read the flags. Approving wetland flags.
Approving bordering wet vegetated wetland flags numbers WFA1 through WFA16.
Second.
Thank you. And the vote, Bill?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
I am an aye as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Have a great evening.
All right, moving on. Let's see, 1266 Monument Street. That's an NRAD filing, file number 137-1637.
Hello again.
Good evening.
All right. Hi, I'll be talking about that again. I'll just say for the record again, hi, my name is Nathaniel. I'm with Stanson McNary. I'll try to be quick. I can put it on the screen right here though. So this is in ANRAD for 1266 Monument Street. You probably will recognize it because the back lot, if you will, was given its own ORAD later last year, I believe. So this is a new one to confirm the wetland line that affects the front property. So I will kind of try to zoom in as much as I can. So it is flags 101 to 108, except 108 because that particular flag projected buffer zone onto the rear lot has already been confirmed. So the position of that flag is already confirmed on the other ORAD as noted here, but we're seeking approval or seeking confirmation, I should say, of the remainder of this wetland line right here. Like I said, it's 101 to 108. And that is it really.
Thank you. I don't have any any questions on the commission?
from me.
Pretty
no.
straightforward. All right. Any public comment regarding this application? You don't see any?
Yeah.
Okay, saying none.
Well, I move that we close the hearing and issue an order of resource delineation with the following finding. The Board of Vegetated Wetland flag numbers WF 101 through WF 108. This is for 1266 Monument Street, DEP file 1371637.
Second.
Thank you, Gary. And the vote, Bill?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Thank you, and I am an aye as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night. All right. Let's see. The next one we have is, let's see. Notice of intent for 1075 Lowell Road, DEP file 137-1639. And let's see. Aiden, you're up again?
I am up again. Hi, I am
Alright.
Aiden Schlotman. I'll be representing Baker Pond LLC. I'll share my screen to show you guys the plan here. So this project's fairly simple. They basically are going to be replacing the existing water line to both the house as well as the fire hydrant that is up property here. So we did our best to remain out of the buffer zone here. You can see that it starts here at the road and it goes up the road, and then we take a little detour to stay out of the buffer zone, and then when there's really no option to be in it, we did our best to remain equidistant between the two, as well as siltation barriers proposed to prevent any sort of runoff from entering the wetlands. The existing pipe there is, I believe, a 6-inch water line, and it's going to be replaced with a 2-inch. It's going to be connected up here to this existing house and the existing hydrant. The hydrant will be replaced, but that is outside the buffer zone. Like I said, fairly simple project. We're just replacing the water line. It needs to be done because the town water and sewer asked that if there's any new construction that could be happening here, that this water line was replaced with a smaller one because they didn't like how much water was in larger pipe.
6-inch pipe
Yeah,
is
that's
unbelievable,
Yeah.
or house, if you will. Okay, thank you.
Pressure in the showers, I guess.
Yeah, under pressure. One question is just, obviously you're doing your best to avoid trees as well. There was a question about tree protection or not. Are you going to be able to stay away from trees so you don't have to have that tree protection?
Yeah, we're able to stay away from, I believe, all of the trees. We didn't propose to remove any. It's going to be fairly linear construction that's going to be happening here. Obviously, you see this tree here. There's the siltation barrier that is on the outside of it. We haven't proposed to remove any trees, so everything will remain.
Okay, and again, plenty of clearance around root system, so you won't be hurting any of those trees. Okay.
But I think that the property manager just wants to be sure that there's not going to be, they may need to reroute that. I don't know if, Aiden, if you have talked with John Wolf about that, but we will want to see those tree protection details and which trees are within 25 feet of the proposed water line. Be sure that the trees are being adequately protected.
Sure.
Thank you. Questions,
Nothing from me. no.
comments?
Yeah.
No, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
All right, going out to the public again, any comments? Yes, please.
Where does the existing?
Name.
Bob Shatner, on Indian Spring Road.
Thank you.
Where does the existing caretaker's house get their water supply? Off that 6-inch line or a different?
Aiden, do you know that answer to that question?
The existing caretaker's house.
Yes.
I am not sure. If I'm being honest, I want to say it's this one here that's being.
Oh, you have to
replaced.
reshare the screen. I shut.
Yeah, you want to
Oh,
see that?
sorry. I believe it's the one that's being serviced. John Wolf may be on this meeting. I'm not entirely sure if he was able to make it out. He could clarify that, but what is the caretaker's house? I'm not exactly sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is John Wolf. Excuse me. It's the gatehouse, Aiden, at the front on the main road. It's a white stucco gatehouse. It has its own water meter, but it is fed off of that line.
So when you install the new 2-inch, John, will you be tapping off that to feed the caretaker's house as well?
I'm not sure about that. And the reason why is because it's such a short run from the front of the road to the gatehouse. In other words, the gatehouse would if it was to continue to run off the six-inch AC, it wouldn't be an issue as far as health concerns go, because there's not that much water in 6-inch pipe if it's only running, say, 30 feet. But when it's running a quarter of a mile down a driveway, that's a lot of water to backflow into the main system. If the water department, they would have to determine that, I guess.
Yeah, but I wouldn't think you could have 2 water lines to a single house. So I think you'd have to, the water department, have to, I guess, square that away with you.
Right, yeah. So the new water line would be for a house that hasn't even been built yet.
Ah,
They put in a pool is in there right now. So the new water line in the future would feed the pool, and a house will probably be coming within the next 3 years or so. Yeah, that's it. Like, this is just all in preparation for what might happen in the future, but also to eliminate that 6-inch pipe with all that volume backflowing into the main system. So it's for health reasons that we're doing this.
so will the 6-inch be, will that be capped at the water main in the street?
Yeah, we'll put a sleeve on at the street,
Yep.
and the 6-inch pipe will just stay basically where it's at. So we're
Yeah.
not really replacing the pipe.
Yeah, just abandoned in place.
And we're gonna stay away from trees. That's the deal. Like, that's why we pop across the driveway. We do not want to hurt any trees.
Okay,
So
Very good.
can you just, I mean, you have that existing 6-inch, can't you just run the 2-inch inside that?
oof, not
No.
with that pipe. Well, they're doing a configuration, looks like, right?
Right.
They're trying to,
But if you already have that pipe in place, why can't you just sleeve it through?
That would be wonderful if you could do that.
Yeah.
Too long a
the-
distance.
Right, the age of the pipe, and I honestly don't
Maybe
think the water
restricted.
department would go for it, but it sounds like an ingenious plan, however.
Thank you.
something to think about. Okay,
Until
thank
you
you,
go
John, for that.
150 feet in and realize, oh, I guess we can't do that.
You're not gonna go any further.
All right, let's see, any comments or questions from the public? All right, so with that, I believe we're gonna continue to June 7th. Are you good with that, Eden?
Sure, yep. And you just want to see a tree protection detail?
Yeah.
Sure,
And the trees to be protected
Yeah.
on the plan.
sure.
Okay, thank you. So that'll be in a week from Friday.
Perfect. Yep, can do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. All right, let's see, the next application is a notice of intent. Mass Audubon Society, 221, 203, and 20X Balls Hill Road, and that's DEP file 137-1635. Good
Hello,
evening.
Good evening. I'm very excited to be here for what will probably be the first of several times that we'll be talking to you about the project at Brewster's Woods. I'm Renata Pomponi. I'm the Senior Director of Strategic Initiatives for Mass Audubon and the Sanctuary Director at Brewster's Woods. I'd just like to introduce my team. We have Liz Stetson, Senior Director of Capital Assets and Planning, Jeff Collins, Senior Director of Conservation Science, Claudia Sudi, Senior Conservation Ecologist, who's also coordinating our response with natural heritage and the invasives management memo that you should have received today. And then from Niche Engineering, we have Steve Ventresca, who's Senior Project Manager, and Kelsey Kern, who's our Senior Water Resources Designer. And we have just a short presentation and then would love your questions.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So this project is the result of several years of effort and collaboration with the community. We've had the opportunity to have literally hundreds of discussions with community members and local conservation organizations. And we really feel we've come to a plan that the community will support and really brings tremendous benefit to Concord and beyond, while really reinforcing the history of the property and the values that we'd like to represent here, namely allowing people access to quiet contemplative time in nature, and continuing the legacy of research and conservation advocacy that goes back to the time of William Brewster. And at the same time, representing the level of environmental stewardship that hopefully you recognize as a hallmark of Mass Audubon properties. So this particular phase of the project is focused on the addition of an all-persons trail. If you're not familiar with Mass Audubon's national reputation there, this will actually be our 17th all-persons trail. We are a leader in the design, construction, and interpretation of all access experiences outdoors. We're taking the opportunity at the same time to repair some eroded trail sections, which is especially important in the transition of this property from a residential estate to a place that is open to the public, and maintaining the connection to the October Farm riverfront system. We're also including a small visitor parking area and a welcome station that will be staffed during busy times of year or times of day. And then taking advantage of a natural opening along the bank for a kayak put in and a small boat storage rack. I'll turn over to Steve for the details.
Hi, good evening. Stephen Ventresca with Niche Engineering. And so we want to go through the project and give you an overview and get into some of the details that we're proposing for this project. And as Renata mentioned, you know, the all-persons trail, which is shown in this plan in this heavy dashed line, is the main focus. But we also want to look at the trails that are adjacent to it, such as the Bluebird Field Loop, which is located here, and then the Fisher Trail, which is located along the, I'm going to say the east, the west end of the existing man-made impoundment. And then the River Loop, which is here, which is between the Concord River, which is on the right as we look at the screen. And again, that that man-made impoundment located here. And so, you know, this encompasses the project that we're looking to do. We're giving you a representative image on the left of an all-persons trail that was recently completed in Wenham. And then a couple of representative details of how we look to stabilize these eroded trails and make them more accessible for the public. And as part of the accessibility and access for the trails, and particularly the all-persons trail, we need to improve an existing crossing. And so we're proposing a puncheon bridge, which is essentially a 6 foot wide by 50 foot long, in this case, wooden bridge, which will be placed in the same location as the existing crossing that's there today. It'll just be it'll be formalized, it'll be accessible, it'll be more stable. This new puncheon bridge will allow for more of an opening, as you can see in this detail here, for water when it does pass through here to pass through more freely and with a more open area, so that again, we get a better flow through at this location. The next piece is this canoe kayak put-in that Renata had mentioned. This is at the end of the all-persons trail, and it's located by the river loop and at the Concord River, which is on the right side in this image right here. And so there are two pieces that we're proposing. One is the actual put-in, which is a little bit more of a stabilized open concrete mat, which you can see here, an image, representative image. I believe this is what was taken at the in West Concord. There's a very similar type of put-in behind the pizza shop there in West Concord into the Concord River. So we're proposing the same type of put-in that was previously approved by the commission. And then we want to do this kayak stand or canoe stand so that people that come in off of the river. The intent for this is for people to come in off of the Concord River, use the stabilized, put in, and then use the stand here to put their canoes or kayaks, and then use the trails that are, that we're rehabilitating here. And so generally the put in is about 6 feet wide, about 12 to 13 feet long. And then for the canoe stand, we're proposing 2 of them where we would have, that would sit on a gravel pad of about 17 feet by 7 feet wide. And so this would, again, be a nice amenity for people coming off of the Concord River. This is not intended to be a dock, and it's not intended to be some type of public boat ramp. So just want to make sure that that is clear.
Can we see again where that is on the map?
Sure. So
I can't see it right now because of the.
yeah.
Move ourselves. Yeah.
Oh,
Hold on one second.
you know what? Let me go back to the very beginning here. So it shows, yeah. So Concord River is here on the right side, and then the boat landing, what's called in this image as a boat landing, is the kayak canoe put in.
Right by the bridge.
Right by the, yeah, the existing impoundment, exactly, that crosses, or the,
Right.
I'm gonna call it a dam that crosses over, that impoundment, separates it from the Concord River.
Hmm. Okay. And the notion is that people are not walking it from their parking lot, the parking lot all the way down, but just taking it off the river. Is that correct? Is that what you're thinking?
That's correct. That's what's envisioned for this, correct?
That's right. We may also store some of our own boats there. to
I was
use for
wondering, that's
boat
pretty
ramps.
elaborate to have those wooden structures.
Yeah, because would people actually make the effort to use the structure if they're just going for a quick walk and back? Wouldn't they just,
Pull them up onto the,
yeah, so you're not requesting them to do that. If they want to stop there, they have to use the rack. You're just,
Available.
it's
if
just
people
available
want
if
to use it.
people want.
Yeah, I think it's available. We obviously don't want to have a lot of
That's what I-
extension of the bank
Yeah.
area, so
Yeah.
it'd be better for them to.
It would be good.
Pull it
To
up.
store, because then they'll stack up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, sorry. Go.
No, that's,
Before, I'm sorry, before
Yeah.
we go off that, it looks like that storage is in the 25-foot no disturb zone. Is that correct?
I believe that we had pulled it far enough away. I can check while we're having discussions, or maybe
So
Kelsey, if
that
you
would be
want to.
good just to have
yeah.
it in the,
Beyond the
have it
25.
outside.
Beyond the 25. Yeah,
Right.
I'm gonna ask Kelsey if she can do a quick check on the plans, and then we can give you an answer. But if it is within the 25, we'll make sure that that's outside the 25. Thank you, Delia. And then the next sort of big piece here are the trail improvements. And what we're looking to do is, as Renata mentioned, stabilize these eroded trails. And there's a representative picture here on the left. And then also the low-lying and wet trails that would get inundated during this time of the year. We're looking to move those away from those areas and move them to higher ground. So generally moving them outside of the floodplain, for instance, on this side of the impoundment, and on this side, on both sides really of the impoundment. And then in the Bluebird Trail to, again, make areas that are eroded or not as accessible, more accessible by rerouting the trails to areas that are provide more of a stability and more of a scenic view. And let's see what else. And
Yeah, Steve, it might just be worth
Yeah.
mentioning the color coding here. So the yellow is the eroded sections.
Mm.
The blue is the low-lying wet areas, and the green are sections that will be, that are essentially redundant with the new trail. So will be rewilded.
And the gray trail, that gray, is that paved area?
this right here,
What is that? Yeah,
those,
that-
this is existing paved areas
existing.
paved area.
that
No,
are
it's
existing.
It's existing
Trail.
surface.
Existing
Okay.
trails, yeah. Yeah, thank you, Renata. That's very helpful. And so I think what would be, and Kelsey's just texting me, she's saying, it looks like it's just inside the 25 foot. So we will move that back, Delia, so that it's outside the 25 foot. Thank you. And so as part of the trail improvements, just so that people have an idea of what that would look like, or the feel of it and the look of it would be similar to what the Battle Road trail is as far as that type of surface and sort of compacted soil. And that's what we're looking for. And then, as Renata mentioned, the trail rewilding, and it's not just in this location here that's kind of highlighted in the red box, but it's throughout the property in those areas that we just looked at. And it's allowing nature to take over. There will be some areas where there will be, some, I'm going to call it purposeful plantings, but it's very limited. And it's generally letting nature take back what it can over time. I do need to mention, as part of this project, we were asked to look at stormwater components, whether we needed it or not, and we feel that we do not need to provide any stormwater mitigation. We provided some information in the notice of intent that showed that the cover types from existing to proposed are essentially the same and unchanged, and that drainage areas are maintained. And our understanding is that that is sufficient for not providing any type of stormwater mitigation. In addition, we are, as the repurposing or relocation of some of these trails, we are avoiding taking down any trees as much as possible, but there may be an instance where we might need to take a tree down. In that case, we would notify the commission and Delia specifically to come out and take a look and see if there's any way to avoid taking the tree down. But if we can't, to come up with some type of plan as part of that process. And it would be on a case-by-case basis for that to occur. And then a few more items to, and I'm just going to show some existing trails so you get an idea of what it looks like if you haven't been out to the site. But other items that we just need to mention as part of this notice of intent, we are in a priority habitat 1581, and so we have submitted to Natural Heritage. They've come back with comments and have noted that this area has Blanding's turtle and Britain's viola, and so Mass Audubon is in the process of coordinating a turtle management plan, and also they've provided Mass Audubon with a arborist or horticulturist, botanist, excuse me, to provide coordination with Natural Heritage for the Britain's viola. So we're in the process of that. We're providing documents to Natural Heritage, and once we receive comments back from them, and we'll provide responses, obviously the commission will be included on those, and we hope to have some conclusions by the next time that we meet. But just wanted to at least mention that that is in process. And then Renata did mention the trailhead parking area, and need to mention that that will be similar in material as currently in the October Farm at the end of this project, or at the other side of this site. And so that's the intent of what we're looking to do. It's really to provide safety and access for people that want to use the Brewster's Woods and enjoy the scenery and enjoy the trails and enjoy nature. So at this point, I think we are, oh, and I should say that that parking area or trailhead parking area is outside jurisdictional areas, which is why we've provided it as part of the notice of intent, but is not specifically highlighted in the plans that we have here. So at this point, if there are questions, we're happy to take your questions and provide some answers.
Thank you. Simple question on my end is just when you rewild those trails, do you try to block them off with plantings, or is there some other mechanism you use to just keep people off as they rewild?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Renata, you know better than I do.
Yeah, so typically we get creative with brush to kind of block the entrance. We monitor it to see if people are climbing over it. A really extreme case would be kind of roping it off, but usually we just try to blend in the view that you see right in front of you. And then, as Steve said, along the length of the trail, we just kind of let it go back to what it was.
Makes sense. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. One is with the rerouting of trails and the rewilding of areas, how much of a net increase in trails are you actually proposing? Do you know? I mean, there'll be a net increase in trail, right?
There will be, yeah. So the All Persons Trail is 0.6 mile one way. And some of that is
on existing?
On existing, and some of it is replacing redundant trail. And then there's a small addition to get from the parking area to that, which is also net new. So I think, it's I don't, Liz, if you have an exact number, you can provide it, but it's about a net half-mile addition, I think.
Okay. And the other question has to do with again, the kayak landing area. What would stop that from becoming a common picnic area for people to pull out and to spread out and to open up a huge area? Is that gonna be really inviting for people to do that? And do you want that?
I mean, it's the All Persons Trail kind of ends there. I think it looks like a formal trail surface.
Yeah.
Not something you'd want to sit on.
I'm thinking people coming off the river.
Yeah, we will have a
Side of the.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
embankment.
pulling in and
Yeah.
pulling their canoes up and having a picnic lunch. I'm not sure I would want that, but I'm not sure whether you want that.
Well, we will have a formal picnic area
You will, down there?
up closer to the house when we're ready to open the facilities
But how
there.
about down by the river? You don't want people picnicking there, do you?
No, I wouldn't necessarily encourage that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really be policing it either, but.
Yeah.
If
You know,
it was
those
an
those
issue-
kayak racks are gonna encourage people to do it. It's gonna look more of a civilized area for people to pull out, put their kayaks up and stay there. Just be aware of that.
Yeah, I have some questions along those lines. I've walked along that area quite a bit and seen ski-doos, and ski-doos could easily land in that area.
Dick Pappas is a member of the commissioner as well.
Sorry.
Remote.
Go ahead, Nick.
Maybe Steve could take down the slides.
Okay, I need to.
Yeah, so I would have questions about any attempt to control motorized ski-doo access to that area. It would be very inviting, I think.
Yeah, I guess there would be no dock, so they'd have to kind of jump off and wade ashore. If they wanted to do that, but that's not something that we're looking to.
I believe a ski-doo can be run right up on the shore. It's not like it's a boat.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we noticed that was a problem, I think I would deal with some signage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because the
Something I
landing
think-
size is 6 feet, that would occupy it basically,
Right.
right? Give or take.
And I had another question. I didn't hear anything regarding invasives, and with rewilding happening, is there any attempt to control the establishment of invasives, or what about invasives inside the 25-foot where you're working along the river?
Yeah, and I apologize. I submitted an invasives management plan as part of this notice of intent late today. So we are proposing an invasive species management plan in the areas where we're providing these, improving the trails and rewilding, et cetera. So that's something that we hope the commission can take a look at over the next, couple of weeks and provide any comments. But yeah, that is something that we are proposing to do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments from the commission? All right.
What about the pipe?
Oh, yes. Yeah. You want to bring that up, Sarah?
Yeah, so I don't think we can see it in the photos, but apparently there's a partially buried pipe at the kayak launch and storage area. And we wondered if it was, needed, and if not, could it be removed?
I'm sorry, I don't know of this pipe, but I don't see why we couldn't, because it seems like it's not really doing anything. We could take a look. I don't know, Renata or Liz, if you know anything about it.
Yeah, are you speaking about the one that's very close to the river?
Yeah.
Yeah. Liz, go ahead.
I think I'm familiar with the one that you're referring to, and I think we hadn't planned to remove that, but that certainly could be part of the scope of this work if that was.
That would be
something
great.
desired. Yeah.
Thank you. Alyssa. Alyssa,
Yeah, Alyssa Brown, 5-1 Concord Green. I was wondering what the grade was at that concrete walkway into the river. Is it level, or is there any kind of grade there?
It's relatively flat. It's not much of a grade. A couple of percent at the most, if I had to go by memory.
All right, because I mean, if you're modeling it after the one at Dino's, that's really a death trap in terms of slipperiness.
Yeah.
Because of the grade there, but also because of the cover, and you get some vegetation, that lands on that stuff and makes it quite slippery. So, and then would it extend into the water, or I mean, where is it with respect to like the mean annual high water line? Are people going to be walking into, muck and then getting onto this stable platform?
Yeah, just how the Concord River is in this location. We're taking advantage of an open area to put in this canoe put in, and essentially so I was there in the fall and the Concord River had receded a bit, so that yes, to your scenario, you would be walking through some muck to get to that. Our intent is to keep it out above the high water line, unless the discussions that there's an advantage to putting it within the water line, but we're hesitant to do that.
Well, I question its utility if it doesn't extend. If people are going to sort of walk out into mud, I'm not really sure what that stabilized surface does for you.
It's really for that stabilized surface as you come in off of the water, once it gets in a little bit of the muck, it also does provide some deterrence for the previous discussions that we were having about ski-doos or more mechanical equipment getting closer to the put-ins.
Thank you, Alyssa. Scott.
Everybody, Scott Smigler, 55 Balls Hill Road, also 1266 Monument. I just have three questions. The first one, by scale, I realize it's hard at this point to know for sure, but what's a reasonable guess of the number of trees to be removed? Are we talking like maybe several along the way? Could it be on the scale of dozens? Could it be on the scale of hundreds?
So I'll let Liz address that question. I'll just start by saying we've contracted with the Appalachian Mountain Club professional trail building crew. Their approach is, we've designated a path, but they do everything very much on the ground and looking to go around trees as much as possible while maintaining the level surface and the grading that's needed.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could say a specific number, but to Renata's point, we've had the Appalachian Mountain Club on site to walk the proposed trail routes with us several times, as well as our own internal trail team, many of whom have experienced trail building, as well as our landscape architects. So we've really studied these routes in great detail to make sure that we can minimize any kind of impact as much as possible, particularly on any larger or significant trees. So I think we've made every effort to not impact trees. And I think there will be, possibly once we get started, there may be a few locations where, as Steve said, we would certainly bring those to the commission and to Delia to review as needed.
I see. So would you be surprised if there was more than 100 trees taken down?
I think,
We wouldn't be doing the project if it was 100.
Yeah, I think they represented a few to maybe a handful more, but no
Great.
more than that,
Okay.
perhaps.
Perfect. Yeah, that was my question. And then with respect to the road itself, I mean, obviously it's a very narrow road. There are a lot of parts of the road where you, for example, couldn't have a car passing and then a person walking on the road itself right next to it. They'd probably have to, go on to the dirt or the vegetation off to the side. Any plans to bring any trees off of the road itself or adjacent to the path?
No.
Are you talking Balls Hill Road? I'm sorry.
Yes. I'm sorry, on Balls Hill Road, yes.
So we need to focus our attention on the project that's in front of the commission tonight, which doesn't involve any work on Balls Hill.
Okay, so and I guess that was a point earlier. So the parking lot expansion would be out of jurisdiction of this commission.
That's correct.
Yeah, and the parking lot is not on Balls Hill Road, it's on the property.
Right, but I assume the cars would have to pass Balls Hill Road. And then how many boats approximately would the boat landing as proposed accommodate?
Landing at one time, no more than, one or two getting in and out. As I mentioned, the boat rack is largely sized for our programs and the number we'd expect to want to have in a program group.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
All right. So with
I just have one last question.
Yes.
Are those stands, are those temporary?
Yes, we'd be removing those. for
Okay.
the winter.
So can you just provide like what your proposed season is for, your dates of putting them in and taking them out?
Sure.
So
Yeah, we
that
can add
we
that.
sort of understand what that
Yeah.
looks like. Great.
I could guess now, but we'll just think about it. and-
Okay, perfect.
And send you an official letter.
I've just thought of something else. You submitted photos of bike racks, but is that for the car parking lot and not
Yeah, the
nothing to do with
bike rack
this?
would be at the parking. lot.
Yes, we don't need to discuss that. Okay.
Right.
And Delia, one last note here towards the end. If there's vegetation removal, and mitigation provided, has that been submitted? If you're removing vegetation and then just, mitigating that with, light vegetation be added.
Yeah, Liz and Flavio, could you take that one?
Yes, I think we did include, that we would be replanting with native species. We haven't included specific species or quantities or that level of detail, but it is included in the trail narrative.
Thank you.
Flavio,
Yes, you are correct. That was the plan. Anything that's gonna be removed is gonna be substituted by native plants equivalent and in a proper habitat depending where we are with the trail.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I'm sure you guys are going to do a great job with it, but it's just for consistency. It's standard practice to have that information put on the plans. So that everybody's on the same page is what that looks like. And another point that Bert had pointed out was that the erosion controls, you have the details on the plans, but just to understand what type of erosion controls are proposed where. So that, again, just so that we're all on the same page, if that would be helpful.
Sorry, Delia, or Mr. Chairman, thinking of something that's mobile, like a compost sock or something, lengths of it that could just be placed on the ground. Is that something that would be acceptable to you? It's heavy enough to, stay in place, but doesn't have to be there permanently or staked and can be, moved to other areas on the site.
Yep.
Okay.
Great, thank you. And you guys good for continuing to the 7th?
Any,
Yeah.
Any questions from
Oh,
people?
please, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Chuck Gibson, 100 Newbury Court. First of all, this looks like a really inclusive plan for access. It's more than the all-person trail. It's an important feature of this that I hadn't realized until I saw the presentation. And it's very appropriate to, I think, consider all of these things together. This may be a more philosophical than specifically related to natural resources impact, but I think it weighs on it. This looks like a very attractive public resource. A sanctuary like other Audubon sanctuaries that is bringing people in to see nature, to enjoy nature, to see restoration, to witness what can be done as you have done it elsewhere in preserving and restoring nature as well as making access. At the same time, a good thing can lead to unintended consequences. And I believe the erosion impact that was referred to, how are you going to judge that? I think it weighs upon you now to let us know what you anticipate, and if it looks like the anticipation of visitation either by craft or by auto is excessive, how are you going to manage it? You've referred in other presentations to management of parking and other sanctuaries, and that is something you're very good at. We need to see that, it seems to me, before we can really know what's going to happen and hopefully help you figure out how to manage it ahead of time and not wait for the erosion, not wait for the natural resources impact and the degradation of what you have. We are very concerned about the traffic, as one person mentioned. And we'd like to know what the parking lot capacity is. It doesn't apply directly right now to natural resources issues, but what is the parking lot capacity and what kind of controls do you have over that? So I'll raise these questions for you and don't know that all of them can be answered right away.
Would you want a response to that or you?
If you'd like to offer the response,
Yeah.
sure.
So thank you, first of all, for appreciating what we're trying to do with having this property be available to new audiences, to people who want to be able to get out in nature and need the kinds of trail surface and amenities that we've designed here. The parking lot is to hold 12 cars, including one handicap space. And the inclusion of the welcome station is designed, as I mentioned, to allow us to have a staff person stationed there during busy times to make sure that we're not exceeding that capacity. I think that we've designed a parking capacity that complements October Farm Riverfront and the extreme need for parking there, given that trail use, but not one that is excessive. We see this property as a place where people will want to visit, both for the first time and as returners. But just mention as well, this is going to be one of the few conservation areas in Concord that is not open to dog walkers, which will be self-limiting, we believe, in the amount of people that are going to come there.
Did you want to address the erosion issue?
Oh, the erosion. I believe when you were talking about erosion, you were referring to during the construction process.
Not necessarily. So I think Chuck,
So-
you're talking about is
The
the,
impact of a heavy abundance of people on the
So
trail.
the trail improvements, the sections that were highlighted as needing maintenance were specifically designed to improve eroded sections and reroute the trail to provide a better surface that would be less subject to erosion. And they are built to the standards that Mass Audubon uses for our properties across the state, which would experience much heavier volumes than what we're anticipating here.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Neil Rasmussen, Esbrook Road. I had a chance to review the detailed plans that you provided prior to the meeting, and I think it's just fantastic and a lot better than having a housing development there. But I would like to say that it's a great service to the community to have this accessible trail, because we really don't have many of these around. But my question is, I don't like the idea of this beautiful accessible trail going right down and ending at a boat ramp kind of thing. Are you going to provide something down there where people could get out of that area off to the side and sit there and have a river view in a wheelchair that doesn't sort of put them right on a boat ramp? Because I can't tell that from the plan.
Yeah, that's a great question, Neil. There is the existing kind of carriageway at that section is already fairly wide. And so that, apart from the trail, that area will remain. The views are primarily directed towards the impoundment, where there's actually greater wildlife anyway. So it is hard to get a view of the river, except at the end of that trail, but that was a purposeful decision to not widen the bank or to ask the group here to do a lot of vegetation removal along the river. But we will have benches and views open on the impoundment.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Bill Hewitt, 1123 Monument. I'm a neighbor and a fan of the property, even if I'm not in the butter. Like others here, I think the plan is terrific. I think the provision of a monitored parking area in peak times is a much needed addition. Very thoughtful. One question I have about erosion is, if we learn one lesson from October Farms, is that people will park anywhere and they'll drive over anything. And I'm curious what the parking lot design, because I assume the staff person's not there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What the parking area design will do to discourage people from driving up hills and completely.
Yeah. We have designed the parking area to fit within the existing trees that are there. So there will be a tree barrier to keep people from spreading too much. And then beyond that, we just rely on monitoring. We're lucky we have a full-time property manager who lives on site, who will be there, every day. So even if we aren't staffing the booth, there'll be someone around to make sure things are not getting out of control.
And thank you for responding to those, again, out of jurisdiction, but appreciate the response. Yes.
Alden, 11 Riverside Avenue. It seems like, somewhere in the future, there might have to be an small electronic sign somewhere at the start of Balls Hill Road, mentioning that the parking lot for either the Land Trust property or the Mass Audubon property is full, don't even bother going down. We might need something like that. It might be done electronically or something like, those things you see in it.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that again, but these are out of our jurisdiction specifically, but
I
appreciate
have
the
had a
comment.
neighbor offer to use their property to post such a sign, not an electronic one, but a
There you go.
signboard.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're discussing.
Also, I just want a minor comment here. I keep every issue we got here, you're talking about trees, 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 trees. We have 150,000 times as many trees here today as we did in Henry Thoreau's day. We're missing the open grasslands. We're missing the second growth that Jeff Collins is so interested in, of having some of the lower shrubs with aspens and the new second growth vegetation coming up. There's mainly, primary white pine forest. White pine's almost a weed here. It's just taking over everything because the deer don't eat the white pine or any part of the white pine. We have too many white pines here growing in boring forests here. The same with the Wright Woods. We got a bunch of lollipop trees with no undergrowth because the 500 deer are eating every damn thing except for the huckleberry and ferns. And we've got some problem. I mean,
Peter,
we have too many trees.
thank you. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Hi, Gwen Shipley, Wilson Road. I just wanted to, of course, commend Audubon for this interesting all-purpose trail. And I think that I wanted to encourage the commission to sort of have to balance the need for maintaining the environment with allowing access. And I think that this trail does a nice balance of, protecting what's there, but then also allowing people of all abilities to access nature. So I commend the commission for that.
Thank you. Any further questions? I don't see any. Yes.
I'm Ryan Bucas, 1360 Monument Street. The house called October Farm. in which we live, and I've been trying to encourage Nancy, my wife, to speak. She seems to be not wanting to say something much about it. But I would say that when Nancy 5 years ago bought the property and gave it to Audubon, the purpose was to open it up to people, to make it open because it had been covered with no trespassing signs for long before. But Nancy was walking on that property. We've been in town now 31 years. And the first year we were in that property, going all the way down to the river, right in our back fence. Right? So we know it, Nancy knows it. And the purpose is to get it open, to get people there and not stop getting people in by saying, let's put barriers there. Let's put limitations there. Let's see how people get into it and how they use it. And because you can't, pave everything and say, we won't have any erosion. We won't let anybody in because, there's not a place to park. The purpose of acquiring it was to open it up and give it to people. And now this is just terrific. It's just amazing that Audubon has put so many resources in. If you see the plans and the engineering and the other plans, it's just terrific. And now it looks like 5 years after Nancy gave it to Audubon, which is 5 years and 3 months after she bought it. Now it's going to happen if you let it. If you let it.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes.
Janet Rothbard, 618 Mersnack Hill Road. I taught at Mass Audubon at Drummond Farm for 10 years. I'm very concerned about climate issues. People will not protect the climate if they do not. They have to encounter it. They have to see it, feel it, learn to understand it. Then they will want to protect it. We have a climate crisis. If we do not encourage people to get out of their desks, away from their music, and get out in nature, we will have more trouble.
Yes. Appreciate that. Thank you. All right. I think with that, You good extending to June 7th for any plan revisions, additions, et cetera?
Yeah,
Okay.
pending, I guess, the timing with Natural Heritage.
Yes, we're
Yeah,
going to keep
yeah,
that
yeah.
open until we hear back from them as well. Well, thank you for a very nice presentation and thank you all.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, so I believe we're on to other business.
Yes.
All right, so the first item on, under other business is in Ferrer, 18A Shady Side Avenue, under the enforcement order.
Yes. And
Who do we have?
so,
You folks have seen these?
hi, Dominic.
Yeah.
Do you want to come sit up at the
We've
table?
got we've got a full agenda, so we've got to keep moving.
Yeah, we forgot.
No,
Yeah.
sorry. Dominic, do you want to come sit up at the table?
Come on up. Come join us.
Right here, anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, please. Steve, I don't know if you wanted to join somebody.
Great, so who do we have with us this evening? If you just give us your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Dominic Ferrer, 49 Shadyside Avenue. Been in town all my life.
Nice to have you here.
And Steve Barrow, 415 Plainfield Road.
Hey, Steve, how are you? Thank you. Thanks for joining. We'll get a little quiet in the room and we'll jump in.
So just as a little background, we received notification that there on May 2nd of some filling that was happening. And the person who complained, who contacted us also contacted DEP, both the wetlands unit as well as the enforcement unit. So they sort of reached out to, everybody. So that was on May 2nd. Bert and I went out there, confirmed the fill on May 3rd, and then Dominic and I talked a day or two later, and we met on May 5th with Dominic and Mrs. Inferrer to talk about the work and just to sort of see what was sort of happening out there. And it was a very unintentional.
Yep.
It's all former farmlands. It hasn't been farmed for more than 5 years, so it isn't something that is legally able to be farmed without approval from the commission. We cannot, I'm sorry, we can't close that door. We just have to, we'll just have to move them further out.
There you go. Bring the hammer.
Welcoming. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Your fire doors.
No worries. So that's why we're here, is because we had to issue an enforcement order in order to just have the activities cease and desist, and also to require that Mr. Inferrer comes to the commission meeting tonight. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is just to sort of start the dialogue about how we can work to get back into compliance.
Well, there's a water hole there that was built back in the 30s by the WPA for water, because there's no water down the street. And we use this pond as an irrigation pond to irrigate the farm. And we didn't have quite enough volume, so I had dug more out of it and put the on the top. So or beside it, I should say. And it just unintentional, but I thought it was under the exemption law of the farmer over the years. We got more volume now. Unfortunately, that what I dug out was clay, and the clay is up on top, and it's just nothing grows on it, unfortunately. When it's wet, it's slippery and thick. So I put some mulch on it, just so we could walk around it and see that. But that's when my dad's been here since 1920.
I hear you.
And I'm the last one left in my family, so I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong under the.
Oh, no, we understand it's the thing that happened, if you will.
It's
So from the history.
right now, it's farmed. I have about 12 acres of land. I have 18.
Yeah.
But most of it is all wetland. 18 of it is, 10 of it, or 12 of it is farmland, which my neighbor farms.
Yep.
All
right.
I'm,
I get you. Well, thank you.
I'm 87 years old, so.
Well,
I've
looking pretty
been here
good.
all my life. Been here all my life, and I just don't know, why this happened, you know?
Well, things happen, so we're understanding of that. And Delia, did we, any preview of the suggested next steps here, or should we just walk
Right,
through
so
that?
we can, I mean, when we met, and also I spoke with your daughter a week or so ago, we talked about, the next steps that would need to happen, which is to, have the wetlands delineated, but, are you by any chance?
Susan she called you from Nevada.
Okay, so
Ah.
you're
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane, okay,
Yeah,
so if you want to
talk
just,
Susan.
I did talk to Susan, okay. So she mentioned that there might be a plan that shows, the wetlands. And if there is that plan, I think that's something that, we would take a look at, and if it's something that we can use, there wouldn't be the need to have a wetland scientist go and flag all of the historic
I
wetlands.
mean, the wetlands go, and the farmland goes right up to the wetland. And there's a drainage ditch all the way around it that we used to dig as kids by hand. To drain the land so that we could farm.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. But it's a little bit, it could be a little tricky just identifying,
Yeah.
by flagging in terms of just
So,
kind of where that is. And as Delia said, if your daughter mentioned that there was a plan maybe from 15 years ago or so.
Yeah, she
that
wasn't
would be a-
sure, there was some, so if you're able to locate that plan, or if, somebody's able
helpful.
to
So,
get that.
My mom fell the next day and now is in rehab, so she's like the keeper of the files. So
Ah.
I will,
Okay.
Could I just have your name and for the record?
Mary Jane, and my last name is Silva.
Okay, thank you.
that's my daughter.
And you just
And
need
my
to
grandson.
address for the record.
Okay.
You
Oh,
just need to put-
28 Estabrook Road in Acton.
Great, thank you very much. Yep.
So, we can work on finding that plan.
If you could, it'd be a nice jump start and
Right.
just expedite things and be very helpful to kind of bring it back into compliance.
Okay.
Right.
I've known Dominic since we went to high school together at Emerson.
Find some good stories from back then too. So,
But over the years, over the last couple of centuries, Concord has a lot of streams and wetlands and farmland and so on, and they always clean the streams and ditches out, and it landed right beside, and it was a normal way of doing business up until quite recently.
yeah.
I mentioned a deal, the probably, I guess, over 100 people that own wetlands in Concord. And I don't believe half of them know what the laws are.
No,
I was
sure.
trying to look it up. When was the Wetland Protection Act passed? Was it
Inlet
70?
was 1972.
Yeah.
72?
Yeah.
So yeah,
We-
back in the 30s, there wasn't.
Right.
And you're
this law
right,
didn't
that.
exist.
Because we see a lot of people come before the commission that don't know what the wetlands regulations
Yeah.
are.
And they, but they don't even know where it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was done in history and
Yeah.
been done all of Dominic's life.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think as I understand, it's more of just a typical regulation, right? If it hasn't been done for
Right.
5 years.
Right. If
Then
it's, so there's there's the ability to have farmlands be fallow for up to 5 years. But if there's a desire to put that land back into farming and it's 7 years after it was last farmed, then it has to get approval from the
We
commission.
belong to the Farm Bureau. My father belonged
Yep.
to the Farm Bureau. We
Yep.
all had been in the Farm Bureau for years.
Yeah.
And like I said, we always did this.
Yeah. So,
I just felt like I didn't.
oh, yeah, no, we understand
All
the,
I did is dug it out to get more volume of water and put it on the, wetland to the wetland.
yeah.
He took me for a ride by just before we came in tonight, and I did notice there was some birch trees right next to the water on both sides. Beautiful. And they're quite a ways above the water, so I'm not sure just how much fill was actually put there, but yeah, they've been there for years.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right, and so that, I think those are the next steps that need to be determined. I mean, what we saw was about, on the order of half an acre of fill that had been put down between the spoil from the pond and the wood chips. And so it's just a matter of capturing what that amount is and then developing a plan to just remove that. And we had talked about, when we get to this point where the commission has reviewed a plan that, you had asked, or your wife had asked, can you do the work? And if you're willing to do it,
Yeah.
then, that's
Actually,
great.
And enhance the wildlife there. The
Yep.
turkeys go around and there's ducks and blue herons and all kinds of stuff there, and people, all the neighbors walk their dogs, and it's just beautified the area, really. So to me, I felt 90% pluses as opposed to 10 of maybe of minuses.
Yeah. No,
That's
certainly
how I feel
understand.
about it.
Sure. Should we just kind of walk through the basic next steps? And then obviously there'll be a caveat. Yeah, no, we'll send them out, maybe just touch on them, just
Yeah.
highlight them, if you will. So I think the first step is that, under the general idea to comply with the wetlands regulations, we'd just like to get something back in writing by June 1st that you're willing to comply with the regulations, so we know we're on the right path.
So if I was to remove that clay, could I put, like, say,
Well, that'll come in the next step in terms of the plan, right? So.
Right now, it's just a letter.
So
saying that-
it's two sentences that would say, we understand the issue, we're gonna comply with the regulations, and we'll work with the NRC and commission to, to resolve the issue, or however you'd like to word it.
there and seed it, or put some.
Well,
We'll develop a plan after that.
That'll be the next, so the next step will be, I think, if you can find that wetlands plan, that would be very helpful. In the absence of that, you would have to hire a wetland scientist to, as Delia noted, to do their best to flag the wetland boundary.
Okay.
So we have that, everybody has that understanding where that, then the 25-foot no disturb zone would spring from that. And then the plan could be relatively simple beyond that, I think, in terms of how you go about just restoring the 25 and then removing, the fill and maybe the mulch as part of the plan. And then, of course, you can make a determination, I believe, Delia, that if you'd like to farm some of that land again, that should just be in the plan up to the 25, right? Or you can't
Right.
go into the 25.
Right.
And the chips that I did put in there were all biodegradable, so eventually they just go rot and go into the ground,
Yeah, but I think those will have to be as part of the plan or removed because it's mixed.
How
with
much
the-
will you remove, though?
That's why we need the plan.
Yeah, yeah.
plan
So
will tell us.
you can work with either the wetland scientist as a consultant, or if he flags, he'll assist you in that perspective in terms of how to do it. And again, I think you have some flexibility if you want to farm some of that or not. It should be in the plan, so it's captured for future use,
Okay.
however you'd like to.
So the
use the
rules
land.
from the Farm Bureau or for wetland rules, from farm rules, doesn't exact.
I think some farm rules do apply, and again, I am not an expert in that, perhaps like yourself, but I think in terms of what we're talking is more specific to the
Exemptions of.
mass
A lot
wetlands
of this was
regulation.
exempted for years and years.
I think it is
It's been there
exempted,
100 years.
but there's again, that 5-year
Right.
horizon.
Right, so these fields here, this field here that has been farmed, that activities on that existing farmland are exempt. So, for example, if you took material from the irrigation pond and you dug that out and you placed it as, organic material to be on the farm field, that would be exempt. But because it was placed, sort of in an area that was not farmland and was, wetlands, that's what the problem is that there's no exemption because it's not
All the
farm.
water comes from across the street, which is another big farm, and comes right
Yep.
through this big culvert that the town had put in. And so all that clay is, the silt and stuff, when it floods, it just goes right down and ends up into the pond.
Mm.
Right.
So, eventually, it's gonna fill up. You ain't gonna be.
And then, so just to be clear too, where the original, basin was, dredging that is an exempt activity under the wetlands regulations. That is exempt, the dredging.
You can do that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
But you can't,
It just,
you have to put
I
this
can dredge it out and put it back into the land according to the.
but it's where you put it back.
in
I
the
think,
in the farmlands, but not in
Wetland area.
an area that's not currently farmed.
Where do you draw the line?
Well, that, again, I
what
think,
I'm trying to
I think
figure
that's where the
Yeah.
plan will come in
That's what
very,
to figure out.
it'd be very handy to have that plan, so it'll offer current and
It
future
almost seems
guidance.
like if you got a puddle of water in your backyard, it's wetland.
It
know,
may be, I don't know, you know, TBD.
Well,
So
that's-
we just need to get the wetland plan and then the letter by June 1st.
Yeah, so, sorry, the letter,
Letter
just
by
say
June
you'll
1st,
reply by June 1st.
right? And then there's some further dates, for example, if you do find the plan,
Yep.
you know, it'd be great if we could, or in lieu of that, engaging a wetland scientist, right? And to develop a plan, you know, showing the, you know, the wetland boundaries, the typical things. And ideally, that would be done by June 17th.
June 17th?
Yeah, so, and again, these are kind of suggesting timeframes, if you will, and.
Let me just
Yep.
clarify, though, that the June 17th is just to have a wetland scientist and surveyor on board. That's June
okay.
17th.
The plan doesn't
Oh,
need to
thank
be
you.
completed by then.
No, that is,
Okay.
that plan will need to be completed by September 15th.
Yeah.
And in the summertime, a lot of that area is dry.
Okay,
Yeah.
Right now, we're in a wet sector.
okay.
Yep.
But it
When
just
it
here.
rains a lot,
But the
Yes.
wetland scientist, if necessary, will be able to discern that issue on site. So they're pretty good with
I'm
that.
willing to do whatever I can to
Great.
All right.
comply.
And again, the simple highlights are hopefully the end result is that the 25-foot no disturb zone would be reinstated, restored, if you will. And then again, you can make a further determination if you want to kind of restore the area beyond the 25, or if you want to perhaps farm that area. That's up to you to consider in your plan.
On one side of it is all pussy willow trees
Mm-hmm.
that we sell. So the farmland actually goes right up to this
Mhm.
circle brook that goes around. It's not a
Mhm.
brook, but it's a ditch. Not right now, it's filled in.
Yeah.
I was toying with the idea of digging that ditch out,
Mhm.
you know, to relieve some of the wetlands, the wet farmland.
Gotcha.
I think if we check with the USDA office in Westford, you'll find some.
They might be able to provide some
Yeah.
resources.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Somewhat on.
The USDA office in Westford. We can get some maps and aerial photos and so on through there.
Yeah. The various seasons, you know, it changes.
Yeah.
oh, yeah. Yeah. So,
I know there's a farm right down the street from me, been there for years.
yeah.
Had drainage ditches so that they could farm the land.
Yeah.
You couldn't dig them because the national park took it over, they own it.
Yeah.
And the national park came along and took my homestead.
Hmm.
All along Lexington Road there.
Hmm.
I'm off it, 400 feet off of it.
Yeah.
And I go down to the end. Um,
Okay.
all the neighbors love it. I mean, it's a beautiful site.
It is a very nice site. Yep.
I think we know pretty well where we are, and if we can find something in Westford there, it might simplify things.
Yeah, might supply, be very helpful to that, so.
Hopefully we can find the plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so, again, if you could give us some idea by June 1 in regard to just general compliance, and then we can take it from there.
And what I can do is I can put this into a letter and I'll mail it out. I can email it, maybe that's fastest. But do you have an email, Dominic?
I'm sorry?
Do you have an email? Okay, and if you want to give me yours as well, I can email it to both of you. So you both have it, if that's helpful.
I just honestly, I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong.
Of course, no, we completely
Totally
understand.
get that.
And appreciate you coming this evening just to give us some background and hear our, commentary as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My wife's in the hospital right now, it's
Oh.
not helping any.
No, it's
But
not.
she's in the rehab now, and
Is he doing all right?
she's gonna be 83 on Friday. We've been married 60 years.
Congratulations. That's great.
We're just trying to earn a living and
Oh, yeah.
keep going.
Yep. Completely understand.
Is she doing all right?
Yeah, she's doing better now. She was bedridden for about 5 days and
Yeah.
she lost all of her legs, and
Oh,
so now she's down in rehab center in Woburn.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
She's gonna be about 2 weeks
Mm.
of rehab.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
unfortunately, all this came together at the same day.
Yeah, it rains of course,
It's
right?
been pretty tough.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
And a veteran.
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
1955.
Oh, yeah.
Ah,
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
excellent.
Bye.
All right, I think the next item under other business is Cook 88 Cargill Road under a violation. Good evening. How are you?
Take care, thank you.
We need your name and address for the record.
Sure,
please.
Alan Cook, 88 Cargill Road.
Thank you. All right. So,
Switch gears here.
Yep.
You didn't have time to do it for the 88, you probably know.
I've got printed copies of it.
It's in the folder.
It's in the folder. Okay, very good. I can.
it's actually in the email you sent around today. If you
Yeah.
want to
I've got the
go to the
plan.
sent email, pull it up too.
Great.
That will be faster. Okay, here we go.
there you go.
Okay.
Good.
All right. So, so I've been doing landscaping my property, fairly extensive landscaping to, basically thin out the trees, but put in some new trees and so on. So, so I had a tree removal person in the back of the yard doing some removal work, and I don't think I appreciated, nor and certainly he didn't appreciate the proximity to wetland on the neighboring land. So I apologize for this. Wasn't an intentional thing. And so, so that's the backdrop. So what I have done in the meantime is I got Stamsky McNary out to survey the land. Once I received the letter, they put in the boundary across the full 100-foot arc, and including a sock, I guess it's called. And then I had, after talking with Delia and Bert last week, I had Crowley Cottrell do this plan of how I could remediate it, because I'm not trying to damage the wetland, but I would like to clean it up. I mean, the condition that I found it in, I bought the house 2.5 years ago, is that, it's a mess of fallen trees, lots of poison ivy. There's even garden refuse that was dumped either by previous owners or maybe even neighbors, I don't know. Dead trees, all sorts of stuff. And so I just want to, clean it up. Delia and Bert mentioned when they came out last week that there are a couple of species of invasive plants in there that should be removed, which I'm certainly happy to do. In addition to that, I'd like to remove the white pines. I heard one of the gentlemen in the audience complain about white pines, and I sort of feel the same way. My house is green with white with
Those the Peter.
and they are, you mentioned lollipop trees. They are lollipop trees because it was so dense, I guess, at one point that there's really just a little bit of the top. Plus, I saw one fall a couple of summers ago, right? I heard a crack and then I turned around and I saw one fall. So, they're fairly shallow rooted, as I understand as well. So I was looking to remove those, leave the deciduous trees that are there. And then, the landscape architect recommended that I then rake it, put in some what's it called?
Wildflower mix. Like a native
Wildflower
wild-
mix,
yeah.
exactly. I'll do the whole area and then put in some native trees. On the other side of that, I guess it's a well originally. There's a old garage, and I'd like to put in those sort of native evergreen trees in order to obscure my view of that garage. And also, frankly, just to have some trees in there. So
Is
that's,
that that area right in the corner? Is that what we're talking about? That where the garage?
This is the garage is down.
it's to the right of that
Okay,
sort
I
of
got that.
round.
So that's a screening element as well.
Yeah, and it's literally not far away. It's about 10 feet
Yeah.
away from that
Okay.
round thing. So, so I guess it was put in pre 1972. So that's my plan. I'd like to remediate it, atone for, what we did and, I think it'll look nice and be good for the environment.
Okay. So just a couple questions on the
Sure.
plan that I had was, so I know at times we've allowed a fence within the 50.
Mhm.
This says it's a stockade fence, so a solid fence?
Yeah, I was gonna do it around my property, and so in order to avoid having a gap in this part, I was planning to do that. Plus, I've got small kids and I'd rather not go down to that pond.
So I guess it just,
So we have allowed them whether or not they're stockade or split rail. First of all, we would want to see a detail. How high is the fence? Is this a 12-foot high fence or is it a 6-foot high? Right, so what that detail looks like, and then it would need to, where it's within jurisdiction and definitely within the, if commission hasn't approved it unless it's got a minimum 6-foot gap. So that it
6
allows.
inches.
Oh, sorry,
From the ground
sorry,
to the
6
ground.
inches.
Chipmunks can go.
it is a 12-foot fence.
Yeah,
Not children necessarily, but
Right.
chipmunks need to be able to go pass
Right.
under.
And I
So that's
just out of curiosity, Delia, do you think there's any effect by putting that part against the 25-foot no disturb in terms of, what do I know, but shading or anything like that, because it's a solid fence, that's all. Versus some other fences I know we've allowed a bit
Split
more
rail is
split
typically
rail
what-
and or with wire or something like that.
I guess we can, I don't think so, just because I think there's, probably enough other angles that
Okay.
light could come in from.
plus the
I think,
whole,
but-
frankly, the whole other side of the stone wall is forested. So I don't know how much light is getting in there. in there
Okay.
in any event.
Okay.
So this is helpful and thank you for submitting this plan. But I think we'll need to take a little bit of time to just review it, and
Okay.
some things that sort of jumped out at me is that it would be helpful to know what that area is within the 25 to 50-foot zone. So the actual square footage, so that we can understand is the right number of trees going in, right? So, because we do like a 10-foot on center for trees, and then it would be good to have some structural diversity just from a habitat standpoint. So to include some shrubs as well as the trees there. The invasives removal, so have the landscape architect identify what the invasives are, show them on the plan, and define how they will be treated.
Sorry,
So,
can you say that again?
sorry, so identify the invasives,
Yeah,
show them on the plan, and describe the treatment methods. Will they be hand removed? Will they be cut and dab? Or what?
okay.
There are different ways to treat
Right.
the
Okay.
invasives so they don't come back.
And I see it says on this plan that the stumps are going to be removed, but we don't generally support that, do we?
Outside the 50.
Oh, outside the 50,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
There's
Well, I
one.
guess there's one
Right on the
inside,
line.
there's one on the
Two.
line, two on the line.
Yep.
Okay.
And
so
that, and
outside
but
the
that,
50 's
that,
okay.
and that area is pretty firm. There's no, is
Uh,
it soft or is it?
Well,
Yeah.
it's,
Hard to tell right now.
Ah, okay.
So at least from,
Yeah,
not
it's reasonably fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a stump removal, you're talking about grinding the stump in place or?
I'm just pulling it out.
Oh,
so that's what,
I'm open. Whatever.
that's what you had, was it a feller buncher? Is that what you had on the property? Is to pull out this?
Yeah, they were just pulling it out.
Yeah, there's,
Oh,
okay.
all of them were just coming out, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we can look at that. We probably just need to think about that. a little
Okay.
bit, Yeah.
and so I guess, as outlined here, just briefly, so next steps would be just again, a very simple letter to the staff about complying by June 1.
Sure.
If you will, and then again, having somebody retained and on board, filing an NOI by,
Oh.
it says submit.
Yes.
allowing notice of NOI by July
Right.
17th.
Right.
So about 2 months from now.
Can I do it sooner? Is that-
You can
sure
do it,
can.
you sure can.
Oh, Because I'd like to get it done, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah,
Of course.
Keep it rolling.
Yeah.
That's fine. We're ready when you are.
When your next
So-
meeting is June 17th?
No.
Seventh,
Oh,
but in
seven.
order to be on that agenda, you'd have to have.
submitted today.
submitted-
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So June 7th for June 26th or 28th.
Okay. I thought it was next Friday for.
Yeah, it's a week on
Yeah,
Friday.
it's a week
before
from
that.
Friday.
Continuances.
What?
Continuance.
Continuance, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could be on the, is it June
June 7th submittal for June 28th.
7 times? Yeah, June 28th. Yeah. Big math. There we go. So I think those are and again, that's great if you want to expedite, but that's up to you and the
All right.
engineer.
Okay, and sorry, the NOI needs to be filed by, can I file?
July
it, or is it-
17th.
is that-
Well,
You
Or
can
you
have
usually
your
do.
landscape
Landscape
architect
architect.
or your wetlands, or yes. If you don't do them,
I don't.
it's a DEP form. It's not intuitive.
Okay.
and it might just delay you,
You're right.
Yeah.
if you will. Yeah.
And they
So-
do it all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will do that.
Great.
Thank you very
All right.
much for your time,
Great.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Well, let's activate.
Yeah, well. Oh, where'd my agenda go?
HDC guidelines.
Oh, yes, HDC guidelines.
Okay.
Luis, how are you?
I'm well, thanks very much.
Thank you for being so patient.
No, my pleasure. For the record, I'm Luis Perez Bedia, 410 Lexington Road. I serve as chair of the Historic Districts Commission. I appreciate the benefit of sharing with you the information that I have. The reason I'm approaching you is because we're proposing some changes to the way that the Historic Districts Commission appoints its members or its commissioners. And as the Natural Resources Commission is one of the nominating entities, we believe that it's important that you all be aware of what we're trying to do and why are we trying to do it. I'll try to be as brief as possible. The commission
you.
has
Still have more on the agenda.
and I will say also that I have a long document that I share with.
Yes,
the chair.
yeah, we did read through it.
And so if you have any questions, then you can refer to the document, and I certainly will be happy to answer any questions you may have beyond the conversation that we have right now.
Thank you.
But in essence, the commission is composed of 10 members, 5 associates and 5 full members. The full members are the ones that vote, but all 10 members deliberate. In the absence of a full member, then an associate member is appointed. So to make always a quorum of 5 full members for any time the decision is made in terms of an application. That does not apply to administrative decisions such as approval of minutes or decisions to take other activities referring to the Historic District Commission to us for appointing, proposing candidates for the historic wards and things of that sort. Sure. So one of the issues that we have been dealing with is the fact that historically, since the commission was established in 1960 through an enabling legislation, the way that the terms of the commissioners have been set have been depending on the nominating entity itself. Meaning that, for example, the Natural Resources Commission, it's a nominating entity, so they have a fixed term of 5 years, starting, let's say, in January 1, 2000 and finishing in December 31st, 2005. And that has been a fixed term to which commissioners jump into and either take the whole term if they start at the beginning and finish at the end, or if they have to leave, then they leave a gap. And then another commissioner comes in and fills that role. If it's a full member, usually an associate member from the same nominating entity is promoted to fill that role. But then the service of that commissioner is limited because it's a fixed term of the nominating entity. So let's say if I'm a full member nominated by the NRC and I resigned after 4 years being a full member, then my associate correspondent will have been 4 years as an associate, will be moved to be a full member for 1 year, and then he's going to be asked to go.
Right.
So that impinges the efficiency of the commission, because of course we want to keep the most qualified members. That creates a number of irregularities. For example, you may be an associate member that just started, and then the corresponding full member has to resign because he moves or she, etc. And then suddenly somebody who has been 6 months in the commission,
Right.
suddenly it's a full member with all the voting privileges, etc., etc. So because of the inherent function of the commission, we value the amount of familiarity and experience the commissioners have while serving the commission. In my particular case, I spent 5 years as an associate member and 5 years as a full member. This is my last year. I am the last member of the commission, which was appointed as an associate member by the same entity that I'm finishing associated with. Because every other commissioner has to change because there have been vacancies, there have been other roles, et cetera, et cetera. So what we're trying is to move the terms of the commission to the terms of the members. In other words, instead of being a 5-year term of the Natural Resources Commission, we want it to be a 5-year term of Jane or Joe Doe, and then allow that person to serve for as much as possible as an associate member, and then for as much as possible as a full member. There may be occasions that an associate member may have to be promoted to a full member, so we want to give the opportunity for that full member, after it finishes its term as a full member, to have the option of finishing the unfinished term as an associate. And again, we are just trying to promote the principle that we should have the most experience and the most knowledgeable people in the commission. So the other changes that we want to make is that we want to discourage a lifetime membership in the commission and the creation of little fiefdoms and things like that, which may or may not have been issues in the past. But we certainly are paying attention to it and don't refer to them, and they certainly don't drive anything. But we believe that, serving 10 years in the commission, it's a very good amount of time, and it gives you enough possibilities to contribute and to understand what's really going on from the historic perspective in these structures that we take care of. On the other hand, they are highly qualified people, which may serve for 10 years, and then it would be very valuable to have them back in the commission. So we're asking that we make a hiatus between the finishing of one term or one set of terms, associate and full, and the starting of a new term. And we're asking that those people start as newbies again, as an associate member, etc. Taking into account that the other thing that these proposals do is that they give the commission some flexibility about who gets appointed and who gets promoted. It's very common. I had exactly the situation where somebody who was 2 years more junior than me in terms of service in the commission was promoted ahead of me, and because there had been a vacancy in his commission, not mine. Right.
Understood.
Which again, it's I can give you some extreme cases, and I made some examples in this document. What I'm doing right now, it's presenting these changes and giving you the narrative of these changes and explaining the rationale of the changes. I would say that from a technical standpoint, all the changes that we're proposing fall into the guidelines for administration, which is a document that is not part of the enabling legislation. Because one of the issues that we have to take into account is that the Historic Districts Commission, it's controlled by an enabling legislation of 1960, which was subsequently modified in 2004 and 2012, I believe. And that's a Massachusetts law that if there are going to be any changes to that law, we need to go to Beacon Hill, and it has to go through a town wire. Sure. So we're not doing any of that at this point. What we're doing is changing sets of guidelines, and that's the reason that this would be incorporated as part of the guidelines for administration. And those changes can be implemented by a simple majority vote of the commission itself. There's precedent for the commission for having done that. We had a crisis last year when we had, at some point, we had 3 commissioners representing the library, no commissioners representing the NRC, etc. So we had to switch things, and all those changes were made by executive decisions of the select board, which has the final say. So what we're doing is just sort of streamlining this process. I'll read the summary just for the record. Shifts the proposed changes shifts the appointment process from being determined by fixed 5-year terms of the nominating entities to being determined by fixed 5-year terms of the appointees to the Historic Districts Commission. Maintain the role of the 5 nominating entities in selecting and proposing candidates to serve in the Historic Districts Commission. And I will say that I use this opportunity to ask you for even further engagement for you to identify those people who may serve in the commission.
We'll do our
Because
best.
You have a very important role. Change it gives the HCC the ability to change the affiliation of its members, in the sense that we may approach the Natural Resources Commission and ask for to have as their nominees, or to nominate somebody else that they have not nominated in the first place. And of course, all this is done with the consent of the nominating entity. In other words, we're not going to appoint somebody to represent the NRC.
Yes.
And it's not really even represented to be affiliated with the NRC or to be the nominee of the NRC, unless the NRC agrees.
Yeah.
You see, and then we will approach that, and that is, it gets implemented clearly. These changes encourage the most qualified candidates to serve in the commission by allowing them to serve for a full 5-year term, either as associate or full. They discourage service in the commission for more than 10 years. That includes me. Allows for highly qualified people to return to the commission if there has been a 2-year hiatus, which is a reasonable proposition.
And are you looking, so certainly, thank you for the write-up. We'll review that. And are you looking for the commission ultimately to bring it to a motion and take a vote on it in terms of what you're
Or
bringing
is this
before
just,
us?
is this just
Well,
advisory?
It will be strictly up to you.
Okay.
In the sense that, I think that it's very important that all the nominating entities be aware of what we're doing and why are we doing it. I have the same conversation with the board of directors of the public library and with the leadership of the Concord Museum. I am scheduled to meet with the planning board next week, and eventually I will approach the select board because those are the 5 nominating entities that have a role in this process.
Yeah.
We have had lots of input from highly qualified individuals that have pointed towards potential issues that may arise. And what you see now is the result of lots of conversations and discussions about how to implement these. And that's the reason that in the write-out that I gave you, it has the fundamentals of how can we do it and how we're going to do it, and which it's not being mentioned here, but you may hear it at some point. It's something that we are planning to propose as a warrant for next town meeting in 2024, which are 3 regulations suggested by Henry Dane. And in essence, what those things do is that they, and that has to go to Beacon Hill because that will be a change in this special act. We will discourage disgruntled applicants of using the legal process to pressure the commission to do something and pressure the town, because as you know, there's a lawsuit going on for 615 Lowell Road, which was made 4 applications to build a large property in Gilbert Corner. And after the 3rd one, they simply sued the town, and the town receives pressure from that because of, it's a large expense, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we'll go to Panama, of course, this is just a preview of what is going to happen because it's not even written yet.
Yeah.
But it will be a clause that says if somebody has engaged into a litigating position with the HDC, then no applications may be considered until that is resolved. You see, so that will discourage people to do that. But this is nothing of what I'm being presenting. What is being presented here. From here on, you see, I will anticipate that you will have some observations or improvements or suggestions, and we will be more than happy to entertain them. We want to make a vote about these changes as soon as possible, but that will be after we have received the input from all the interested parties, and of course, nominating entities are number one, that group.
Well, thank you for taking the time to,
thank you.
there's a lot of work behind that.
Well,
that's obvious in terms of the write-up, and I've been watching from Zoom on a couple of things when I've seen you present, so, and work through this issue, so it's time, so appreciate you coming before us. We'll certainly take it under advisement.
I appreciate the reception and the time.
Yeah, thank you.
And again, any questions you may have, please don't hesitate. We have a fellow member here.
Great.
And Clifford, that you know all, it's also very much involved, and you can approach anybody.
All right.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
you.
All right.
Okay, so we might want to jump ahead one. Is there somebody on the call to talk about the Nashotah Country Club extension?
Oh, yes.
Yes, there is. Lori McDonald with Conoco Engineers and Scientists.
Yeah, let's definitely do that. All right, so we'll address the Nashotah Country Club DEP file 137-1442. Lori, if I could have your name and address for the record.
Sure. Lori McDonald with Conoco Engineers and Scientists. I'm representing Nashotah Country Club tonight. And Mike Toohill was unable to be present, so I'm going to present the request for an extension of an order of conditions for the work that still needs to be completed at the golf course. So originally there was an order of conditions that was issued by the commission September 28th, 2018. That order was extended to June 4th, 2023. And at that time, a lot of the work was complete, but construction started in 2019, stopped for the golfing season, and then resumed in the fall of 2019. In 2020, there was no activities due to COVID, and as a result, the work was not able to be completed in its entirety. The remaining items are the replacement of the irrigation system and still some tree removal or tree work that needs to occur on site. We are anticipating that this work is going to be completed in the fall or by next spring or during next spring. But we are asking for the commission to permit to extend the permit for 2 years in the case the construction crews remain difficult to be secured. So with that, I offer the rest of the commission an opportunity to ask questions.
Thank you, Lori, and certainly appreciate the issues with both contractors and COVID, among other things, though.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any comments on this?
No.
Okay.
No.
Gary, you want to do a motion?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I move that we approve a 2-year extension request for DEP file 137-1442, the Nashotah Country Club at 1861 Sudbury Road.
Second. Thank you, Sarah. And we'll take the vote. Bill.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Lori, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Yeah, you
Thank you.
too.
Good luck finishing the work.
All right. On that, I think, we're on to,
Haywood Meadow.
Haywood Meadow Committee, yes.
So what are the changes in the charge? You sent the revised charge and said that it's been amended, but
It's just
Said
a
both.
lot more detail.
It has a lot more details.
The
So the
first one was very.
right,
Oh,
so
short.
I only saw
2005
the first one.
They're the
Charge.
same email.
Oh, there was another.
Yeah, there's another attachment.
So the committee was established in 2005 and they had prepared a landscape preservation plan, and over the past couple of years, they have worked very hard to update that plan. And as part of that, and I thought I had printed it out, but
You did send it.
yes, just today. Sorry. So really what they wanted to do is just kind of flesh out what their current, duties and responsibilities, but also they changed a little bit on how they're filling their membership. And so that's really the main changes are just highlighting the different tasks and responsibilities that they see are relevant for them as they continue to move forward.
And getting it more definitively down in writing or something, just so everybody's got that baseline.
It's
Right.
interesting. I didn't know the background.
It is
Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
was
some of the, development pressure and.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was gonna be the
Visitor
visitor center. I remember that very
Center.
clearly, the discussion.
It's a big deal.
Oh, it really was.
The Estabrook Road of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way that people talked about,
Yeah.
it was very divisive.
It was very divisive.
Yeah.
Not a great location for it, but hey.
And then, so it was the Middlesex Bank that stepped up and
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
Yeah.
take some.
this.
That's
That's
Right?
great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Much better spot for it.
Because there had been a little visitor center sitting there. Did you know that?
On the other side of
the
Haywood
other
Meadow,
side.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, that's where it was.
Yeah.
So.
So, on this one, are we looking for?
So yes, a
A
motion
motion
to
to
approve
adopt?
the amended
Oh,
charge
okay.
or adopt the
Yeah.
amended charge.
Yep.
And then motions to appoint the members with their new terms, which is what the town clerk had asked for, similar to the Trails Committee.
And do you want a reading of those members in terms as well? Or do you just want to reference that?
Did a reading last time.
We read them.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Bill,
Okay.
you want to take a
There
shot
we
at that?
Sure, I do. I move that we accept the revised charge as it's been amended by the Haywood Meadows Stewardship Committee, and it's attached. And can I just make all one motion?
Mhm.
Okay. And that we appoint the following members for staggered terms as follows. Joanne Gibson of 80 Deaconess for a term to expire May 31st, 2026. Susan Clark of 329 Heaths Bridge Road for a term to expire May 31st, 2026. Lola Chason from 77 Walden Street for a term to expire May 31st, 2026. Mary Clark for a term to expire May 31st, 2025. We don't have an address. That's okay, I guess. Oh,
Yeah,
is that- okay.
26 Bartlett Hill Road.
26 Bartlett Hill Road. Stan Lux from 165 Indian Spring Road for a term to expire May 31st, 2025. Sandy Smith, 25 Academy Lane for a term to expire May 31st, 2025. And Chris 24, sorry, and Chris Van Dyke of 344 Barrett's Mill Road for a term to expire May 31st, 2024.
Second.
And thank you, Sarah. We'll take the vote. Bill?
Aye.
Gary? Aye. Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Great. All right, moving on to emergency certifications. We've got 3 of them, I believe.
We have 3.
Yeah.
So the first is it's actually after the fact. We have already done this beaver deceiver installation, but it was at Williams Road where the upgradient neighbors were complaining of flooding. The water had come up
Oh.
at least a foot. And so we had worked with Beaver Solutions to install a beaver deceiver. They put it in almost a month ago now. And so we may have to readjust that one because the neighbors are still a little antsy about how high the water level
Okay.
is. So
Okay.
but that's the first one. The second one is again, beavers have caused some flooding at the theater at Middlesex School.
So a different one. This is a
Yeah,
cross-
so
last
this is
time.
behind, you know
Yeah.
where the theater is?
Yeah.
All their buildings are sort of behind you know, just upgrading into Bateman's Pond. So, I mean, the groundwater is very high there anyway. So that is just to breach it enough to allow the waters to recede so that it's not, it's coming up through the waterproofing in the floor, into the floor of the
Oh,
auditorium.
boy.
This is the new music
Yeah.
theater
Oh.
that they
Yeah.
just built.
Huh.
Well, it's not the one that is in the old facilities
Yeah,
building.
right.
It's the theater, the auditorium.
Okay,
Yeah. The
Right.
theater.
I don't know that one as well.
Okay.
I know the new one.
And then the third one is, right, Cataldo is the builder, 475 Monument Street. So a vehicle hit the side of 475 Monument Street and shifted it off the foundation.
Oh.
It is in jurisdiction. We felt that, you know, this could proceed under an emergency certification because the house is not habitable. Bert measured the foundation with the building inspector just to confirm that there will be no change of any structure. So it will be within the existing footprint.
Okay.
All right.
So if you can make a motion to ratify those 3 emergency certifications.
Sarah, you want to do that one?
I have a question. So
Ah.
I'm a little confused, the building reconstruction. So I'm just confused about why this is an emergency certification and we don't see a plan and everything.
We have a plan.
Okay.
It's in permitized. It's basically the architectural plan of reconstructing the.
It's just exactly the same footprint and then you don't need to come as you would normally if. Yeah, okay. No, that makes sense.
No, I mean, we would normally have something like this come in front of the committee. If somebody said, I'm gonna tear my house down and rebuild in the same footprint,
Right.
it would still come to the board. But because
But
the
this
house
is
is,
because of the accident situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Okay, I move that we approve 3 emergency certifications as described for 4Y Williams Road. Or do I have to go through all the details?
no, just for
What
the
do I have to say?
addresses,
Okay.
or just say as
4Y
discussed.
Williams Road, 1400 Lowell Road, and 475 Monument Street.
I second that.
All right. Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. All right. Lastly, other business admin approvals.
Okay, I'm gonna take these a little bit out of order. Mac, 455 Bedford Street. That is 1 Willow in the 25-foot notice served zone that snapped. And then also the what's the other one? Sorry, Middlesex School, they have 2 trees that are also within the 25-foot notice served zone. One is, they're both dead and dying. They would like to remove those. I could go through each of these, or staff has reviewed all of these.
And they're all,
And we're comfortable with all of them. And the CLCT ones are all invasive removal projects.
That's fine.
We
All
have
good
a
stuff.
goutweed.
That's,
Okay.
we're good.
that's good. That's
Okay.
very good.
All right. So with that, I think we're adjourned.
Okay,
Good.
We-
let me.